Here.
Before we get into regular business, I just wanted to make a note. As you'll see on the agenda, an executive session was scheduled for 5 o'clock p.m. The original intent of the executive session was to discuss interviewees for the Board of Ethical Review. We had some extra time in between interviews, so we combined the executive session at the beginning with a planned executive session at the end, which would have been to discuss a land sale matter. No action was taken.
Thank you. Before we get started, I want to recognize and welcome Boy Scout Troop number 1. They're all here. Stand up and say hi. They're here tonight. They're here tonight observing, and they're working on their citizenship in the community merit badge. And Teresa Lawrence is their assistant scoutmaster. All right, welcome. Hope you enjoy the show. I have a proclamation for Arbor Day. Sage. Seems like a year went by really fast, didn't it? Okay, whereas a special day set aside for the planting of trees was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska leading up to Arbor Day, now being observed throughout the nation and the world today. And whereas trees provide shade and beautify our homes, neighborhoods, and communities, they decorate our landscapes with rich colors and shapes, and they provide vital stability to our ecosystem. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, as well as improve our environment and provide important educational experiences for the young and old. And whereas Arbor Day provides a unique opportunity to stimulate community interest in trees, their maintenance and value, and to encourage beautification of private, business, and public landscapes to benefit future generations. And whereas the City of Geneva's Arbor Day celebration will include planting on April 29, 2016, 1 eastern redbud tree along High Street at St. Francis St. Stephen's School at 10:30 a.m. and 1 American hornbeam and 2 red horse chestnut trees at 305 Washington Street along South Morrell Avenue on April 29, 2016 at 1:30 p.m. in the City of Geneva. Now therefore I, Ron Elcock, Mayor of the City of Geneva, do hereby proclaim April 29, 2016 as Arbor Day in the City of Geneva, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day by planting a tree or preserving the trees we already have. And if you get a chance to come out to those tree plantings, are a lot of fun, so if it's warmer than today. Thank you for your work. One other proclamation for this April 2016 is designated as National Fair Housing Month, commemorating the 48th anniversary of the passage of the Federal Fair Housing Act. No one's here to accept it. I've signed it. I'm going to give it back to the city clerk, and she will pass it along to the appropriate individual. Thank you. Okay, at last month's meeting, we set aside tonight is a public hearing for the lease of 35 Lakefront Drive. So I declare that public hearing open. If anyone from the audience wants to address council on the lease of 35 Lakefront Drive, please step to the podium and state your name. And no one's appearing, so I'll close the public hearing. Council has in their packet the meeting minutes from the regular council meeting of March 2nd. And we get a motion to approve.
So,
Councilor Eddington, Councilor Valentino seconds. Any questions, changes, discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilor Eddington?
aye.
Councilor Cameron?
Aye.
Councilor Gramlin?
Aye.
Councilor D'Amico?
Aye.
Councilor Marino? Aye. Councilor Eddington?
Aye.
Councilor Grieco?
Abstain, I wasn't here for the meeting.
Mayor Alcock?
next item is correspondence. Doris?
During the month of March, there was one claim filed against the city of Geneva. All correspondence has been copied and distributed to Mayor Alcock and all council members.
Thank you. We'll move to unfinished business. Our first item is a resolution authorizing seasonal closure on Linden Street.
Thank you, Mayor. At its last meeting in March, City Council did meet to discuss, first to hear a presentation from a group of merchants from Linden Street on a proposal for closure. Council had a discussion and provided some feedback on that presentation. Tonight, a scaled back or a revised proposal has been put before you. The proposal that is under consideration tonight is for closure of Linden from May 1st through Columbus Day weekend, which is roughly the third weekend in October. And the proposed times are 5 p.m. Friday until 3 a.m. Saturday, and then 5 p.m. Saturday night through 3 a.m. on Monday morning. So effectively being closed all day on Sunday. Based on council's direction, we did a pretty extensive public outreach for feedback. We utilized both the city's distribution list for our newsletter and our neighborhood groups, as well as our BID connection, reaching out to the BID membership to get their input. All in all, we also, did lots of social media push and some traditional media as well. We could forget about Dave and the traditional media. Based upon that, we did get over 100, actually roughly 122 responses via the vast majority of which, over 100 responses came in via emails, and an additional 20 or so came in via comments on social media. We broke them out into constituent groups. We provided council with a report on how it broke out between constituent groups, including just city residents who had an interest in the program, downtown merchants, downtown business owners, downtown building owners, etc., as well as those who didn't identify themselves readily in the survey. What we found was the vast majority of respondents favored the proposal. 85% of respondents favored the proposal as put forward. We did, kind of do a spectrum to show, fully, unequivocally in support of the proposal. Folks who had a positive look at the proposal, but thought it could use some tweaking, and they made some recommendations. People who were neutral, just hey, you should be thinking about things like this, and then people who were leaning negative, and then ultimately some folks, fewer than 10 total responses, who were just outright negative and who said, under no circumstances should it close. Some of the general feedback, what I call constructive feedback from folks who were leaning positive, but just thought there were ways to brush up the proposal, had a lot to do with Sunday closures. A lot of questions about whether there was enough programming developed to sustain a full season of closures 3 days a week, or 3 nights a week, I should say. There was also, folks who were interested, and the feedback we got about the 11 p.m. cutoff was, it has to be strictly enforced. It has to be something that the merchants hold themselves to, and that the city holds the merchants accountable to, just to be respectful and mindful of the fact that it is a mixed-use district and that there are residents upstairs. It's an urban neighborhood, but it's a neighborhood nonetheless. And so the vast majority of the feedback had to do with that. We also received feedback, actually kind of just a ditto feedback from the postmaster, who'd given feedback on the 2015 proposal, And the postmaster just asked you to be mindful of the fact that the post office is a 24/7 operation, that the internal post office boxes are accessible 7 days a week and 24 hours a day, and that folks who have physical disabilities are most often access the post office from Linden Street, and just being mindful of that. And so in light of that, staff looked at what's been done in the last 12 months since we had the closure, and we have developed additional parking opportunities immediately adjacent to the post office. So we do feel that we can address accessibility to the post office concerns. And we feel the revised proposal that came back to us did illustrate, an understanding of this is a neighborhood. There are residents upstairs, and so they have instituted themselves. The merchants instituted themselves an 11 o'clock cap on the performance or recorded music. So, in terms of public feedback, a groundswell of support, and so now it's the council to give me some guidance as to how you'd like to see this develop out for this season.
Your motion.
So moved.
Councilor Elfie, second. Councilor Hagan. Discussion.
Yes, I think it's, first of all, I just think the whole process, the way you handled it, and the city staff has handled it, I think it's excellent. Got a lot of feedback. It's part of the whole thing of, certainly the way I feel, about governing in the open and letting everybody have their say, so I appreciate that very much. I support the merchants and the residents and the shoppers and the visitors and all the people who pass through this, which has now become our sort of entertainment district. Can you imagine that? I think that Geneva now has an entertainment district. Nevertheless, I'm still of the view that the closure for approximately 5 months of Sundays places an excessive burden on the residents and the users of the street. And particularly when it's, let's say it's raining and there are chances increase that the space isn't going to be used at that time. So, there'd just be no dropping off of anybody, no easy carrying of groceries upstairs from the sidewalk and those kinds of things. So, I'd like to propose an amendment that would just say, take the original resolution as is, and then take automatic Sunday closures out and replace it with Sunday closure by request with a minimum of a 2-week notice to residents and merchants located on the street, so that the request would be based around a specific event. And then in addition, coming up with an appropriate and efficient method of handling the closure request that, it should be set up by the city. The city would get the request and then be able to funnel it out to all the people that are concerned parties, so that they know 2 weeks from some date there's going to be an event. So that's my motion.
So just to be clear, from a procedural standpoint, I don't want to interrupt the flow of business, but just to be clear, from a procedural standpoint, the resolution itself has no guidelines, so the guidelines will be attached to it once council develops. So
Meaning, you're referring to the notification?
you don't need to propose an amendment, you just need to propose operating guidelines for tonight. So right now,
What's the difference?
you're not amending the resolution. The resolution says, according to guidelines developed. And so you're putting forward a change in how the guidelines are being developed.
Okay,
So you don't need to propose an amendment.
okay.
So,
But you do need to move the resolution.
so, does he need to withdraw his amendment?
Well, then I put that
Is there a
in.
second?
The amendment was, it's not amending now.
So do we have further discussion now?
Yes.
Because I agree with what Ken said, and some of the feedback I was getting related to Sunday closings. And initially, I stated I was supportive of enhanced hours of closure for Linden, and I think it's a good trend. And I did talk to Dad about this. I talked to a few other people that live on Linden and have businesses on Linden that they did some canvassing of people that live there and have businesses. So I tried to talk to everybody, and I don't think everybody's going to be happy with whatever is decided, but I'm in favor of enhanced closure of the street, but also try to be as accommodating to people who live there as much as we can. So, and the people that do live there, an overwhelming majority of the people that live on Linden and near Linden were supportive of the proposal, you know, with the Sunday closings. And in my conversation with the city manager, you know, we talked about Sundays being by request only, and what constitutes a legitimate closing or an appropriate closing. So if we're going to develop process or procedure moving forward, I'd like to have Sundays addressed. So if Ken's proposal was up for a vote, I would support it the way he presented it. I am supportive of enhanced closure for the street, and I think it's a great area, and I think it will bring people downtown.
So maybe a quick way to kind of move to the issues at hand would be to take the closure times a day at a time. So is there anyone on council who would propose to amend the Friday closure time, 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. with an 11 p.m. performance and recorded music cutoff?
Could I just, I have no problem with that, but I would like to see it, I mean, if 3 a.m. becomes a problem to the residents that are trying to sleep there or whatever, I'd like some way to monitor that and not be tied into it if there is a problem.
Well, 3 a.m. has nothing to do with entertainment at that point. That's to allow the business to close and reopen the store.
Well, you don't want people hanging around and, you know, making noise.
If the entities are closed at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock on Saturday.
Also, I'm not against it, it's just, let's monitor it.
Yeah, I would say that anything that you approve tonight is subject to positive performance.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking for, positive performance.
Yeah.
So we'll do Friday, no one's objecting to Friday's proposed hours, right?
One of the comments that I had about 5 p.m. on Friday was from a senior citizen. I get there at 4:30, I go into the post office, it takes me a half hour to do my business, I come out, am I going to get a ticket? And I didn't think they're giving tickets, they might be blocked in, right?
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily going to get a ticket, we're not going there.
Right, I mean, in the past, how it was handled was if your car was still there, these guys make every effort to find you and get your car moved off.
Right, you could get them out.
All right, so good with Friday.
Okay, and then Saturday is where it starts to get to a little bit of a hang up. So if you're not, well, so I guess Saturday and Sunday are kind of a conjoined conversation.
So can you just split it up?
Split them up.
Can you do Saturday the same way as Friday?
That's a question for the council.
I'd like Saturday the same way as Friday.
Yeah,
Yes, I would do.
I think that's reasonable.
Can you reiterate again, what's our policy on noise, excessive noise? When that's supposed to be quieted down?
Yeah,
Citywide.
the noise ordinance doesn't have a time. That's kind of a myth, I guess, a legend, if you will. I mean, you always have to be inside of the noise ordinance.
Okay.
And so it's what's considered to be reasonable. And, you know, and 11 o'clock is a good, reasonable conversation, right? And so this isn't whatever you do here is not carte blanche to violate the noise ordinance, say it that way.
So if there are issues concerning excessive noise, like, because the whole downtown area could be noisy.
You bet.
Or whatever hour.
Yeah.
Then we can look at that as a separate issue.
You bet.
To challenge it.
Yeah.
Part of the proposal is music stops Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 11.
So far you've agreed to Friday at 11.
Well, okay, but I mean, what's in front
What's
of
in front of us, that's correct. Yeah.
Go ahead.
My opinion on Saturday/Sunday might be a little different. It kind of ties in. I mean, last month I talked about being sensitive to the business owners and the residents in the area, and I appreciate the due diligence that was done. I did receive some comments from various individuals. I can tell you they were probably percentage-wise about the same as our results, most of them in the positive tone. I think the challenge for this council is we sit here trying to be an attractive city. We try to promote tourism, and there's some tough decisions that when you're starting to create change, that a lot of people are resistant to change. And you have to make those decisions based on not a lot of data, but some certain level of perceptions. I'm a big fan of the position the city's in and the direction the city's headed towards. There's a lot of good private investment going on. There's a lot of draw to the city, and I mentioned at the last meeting, if there's something I can talk about, whether it's within the city limits or outside the city limits, that draws people to the city of Geneva, I love having that conversation. And I don't care if it's Live at 5 or Geneva Night Out. Keep piling them on, because when we have a lot of people visiting our downtown and visiting our businesses, and we have parking challenges, that's a good thing in my opinion. This change is hard to swallow, and I wish there was a way to trigger the weather thing more than anything else. Because I imagine you probably get the business owners who would say, you know what, if it's going to pour, I'm not putting anything out there. So make that decision to leave the street open. I would much rather see a weather-related issue than a time frame related issue myself.
Put a dome in.
Another clause, kind of, in there, where if we know that the weather is going to be inclement, it's not going to be utilized anyways, as far as outside activities. I can see something.
I was just gonna
Is that
say,
on Saturday?
Saturday, Sunday is what I was talking. I was talking Saturday, Sunday. Just my opinion is, in order to give this thing the honest effort it needs to be successful, you've got to give the venue, the business owners, the opportunity to market it and push it. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be something that draws attention. But when the day shows up where that thing's pouring rain out there and nobody's going to be using the street, I can't imagine there's going to be a resident who's going to be disappointed that they turn the corner and the barricade's down, and they get to pull right up and do their parking or go do their business or bring their groceries in or whatever it might be.
I think that's a reasonable assumption.
Jason?
I was echoing that, and Mark brought that. I thought that was part of the original talk too. I mean, nobody's going to dine outside in the rain. I think that would be.
Yeah, that's been that's been my conversation with with some of the participants, is that it's not, you said it today, but that doesn't mean it's perfunctory. It doesn't mean it's just going to happen. These folks are going to use their best judgment when there's not hay to be made. Then it behooves them to have parking right in front of their business when it's 3 days of pouring rain.
But I think maybe one of the things is, sometimes it rains for a couple hours and then it doesn't, and so you want to be ready to go, and you don't want to be putting up the barricades and taking them down and all that kind of stuff, and then cleaning out cars. I really buy the consistency argument, so that's why I support the Saturday and the Friday schedule. Every Friday, every Saturday of the month. I originally was thinking maybe just some Friday. No, I think the consistency argument is very important. But I lived on South Main Street at 391 South Main for about 10 years. And I knew what we were getting into. We had to care, we'd hope for a parking place, run about where we were, because the back egress was bad. You pull up, you got your four bags of groceries and everything else, and if it was raining and it was, and if it was, there was no parking place, you were running in the rain, or you were saying, let's just leave the groceries in the car until it gets better. And then you go back down, and that's all very inconvenient, and we knew what we were getting into. But after a couple of years, it started to get pretty old, and there are some people that are living there that weren't really conceiving of this, and I think that they're eventually going to just say, this is too much for us and we're going to leave. But so let's chase them out slowly or gently rather than whatever. So that's my opinion. So can we talk about Saturday? Can we split Saturday and Sunday up so it's more clear that we're getting up? Steve went back to both things.
Listen, I'd be willing to, I mean, because I'd like to move something tonight, and I'd be willing to move this forward, saying Friday and Saturday night, with a discussion about how we handle inclement weather with the business owners, get some kind of input back from them, and come back to the council and modify our Sunday on a vote. You know, talk about Sunday. Should Sunday be in the mix, should it not be in the mix, put it up to the council for the vote. If everybody's in agreement with Friday and Saturday, let's move things along.
How we handle weather on Friday and Saturday could be a policy.
That's their,
That's
So
their,
we're gonna start
Friday,
figuring it
Saturday,
out.
Thursday.
So,
And
can we say Friday and Saturday as presented are okay? Does anybody have an issue with that?
We mean 5 p to 3 a.m.
Huh?
5 p.m. to 3 a.m.
Right.
That's
same
not-
both days,
that's not-
the same both days.
With the opportunity for Sunday, if we come back as a council and agree that there's an inclement weather clause, that Sunday can remain closed unless it's inclement weather. I think we'll.
No, I was.
Well, yeah, I was
I'm not saying that right now.
No, okay, but I'm proposing that Sunday be allowed on a request basis 2 weeks in advance. I don't want to take Sunday off the table now. There may be 5 events.
We disagree because that 2-week window, you can miss an opportunity. If you schedule the Sunday and it's inclement weather, it's easy to cancel rather than plan.
Well, I think what Ken, are you saying that let's not close Linden every Sunday regardless, let's only close it if there's an event?
Yes.
2-week form.
So I like that, okay, I'm okay with that, and I would support that myself. If we're on Sunday, we're done with Sunday.
We're on Sunday.
I'm okay, as I said, with Saturday, Friday, and Saturday. Sunday, I've talked to a couple of businesses that are on Seneca Street and whatever. Friday and Saturday, there's a lot of activity because the stores are open. On Sunday, what they're telling me is there's nothing going on. The stores are closed on Sunday, on Seneca Street, Linden Street, or whatever. So what their experience was is Sunday was really a hit and miss day. So, I mean, I sort of like, Ken's partially, but then again, I don't want to limit it totally. I guess I'd like to see it, try it out, see how it is. I mean, it's sort of foolish to say you're going to do it every Sunday, if you put a picnic table out there and there's 2 people sitting there, I mean, that doesn't look good for the whole concept altogether. So I'd like to try it and see how it goes. And if, obviously, the business owners, they're not going to, be out there if there's nobody there to serve. So, I think we got to let them use their judgment too, so.
But then we're thinking about the residents who are going, I shop
It's closed. I know.
I shop on Sundays.
It's tough, I know. But again, I'm just saying, maybe it'll prove that it's feasible, maybe it'll prove that it isn't feasible.
Matt, do we have any numbers on how many residents actually weighed in on this?
Yeah.
Linden Street residents.
I didn't break it down to Linden Street residents, but I can tell you anecdotally, it was approximately 5, and it was pretty.
16, okay, 16, and there were,
In the survey, there's.
Oh, I mean, I'm talking about the city's outreach.
That's what I
Yeah, the city's outreach, it was about 5 Linden Street residents, and they were pretty evenly split.
but there were additional surveys, an additional survey that had, I think, 16 asks, and there were 13 or 14 that were okay with it, people that lived on Linden. So I think that's to me when I was talking to Dave earlier today, to me that was that kind of made me more acceptable of a more radical change to hold more hours. So I was concerned about people that live there, and if the people that live there aren't concerned, then why should I be? Not everybody's gonna be happy. We're gonna make a change. We're gonna do something. It's gonna be different, and we can always change it back. But I think that if the people that live there don't mind what we're talking about, then we should just move forward with it.
I think that, I'm going to chime in before. I was excited about this proposal when it was presented last month, and I still am. I do understand there's a couple people that live in the building that aren't real pleased about any of it. Whether it be Friday, we're sitting here arguing about Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and they don't want Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So I think it's a good proposal. It's a low impact to the residents of all over the city, and it's a great plus for downtown. I think it shows a real progressive stance for our uniquely urban feel and look, and I think I would be prepared to pass the whole thing tonight. I just think it's a great thing for the city. I think it's a great thing for downtown, and it impacts very, very few people, but it really helps a lot of people too.
Yes, you gotta figure out Sunday.
I was,
What would Sunday in or modifications?
I agree with the mayor, and I've gotten a lot of, I do my own surveying via Facebook, as you know. And, I believe in engaging the community, I believe in synergy. And, it's overwhelming, the amount of people that want this. But we also do have to be, I don't want to minimize anyone's concerns as far as, concerns parking, the businesses. And one concern was noise bleed, which, I believe that will be a problem. It's not going to be a car show every weekend or anything like that, because that's think that. But, for consistency and to be able to market this, I think we should try what we're all talking as far as.
I have a question on, maybe to Mark, noise bleed. I had one constituent call and was concerned at the possible noise bleed with the Smith Opera House.
Yes.
Did you get the same call?
Yeah, the same call.
That's your,
And
that's
yes, I actually proposed, that's the same thing, and I actually asked the same person, did you have that last year? Because there was, music, and things like that. So it was a no, so, a lot of this that's talked about is perception. So, and that's why we try things, right? If you try it and it don't work, what do you do? Because, frankly, admit it didn't work and back up and, try another thing. So, I really don't think if we have something to that scale, I know that the folks who are putting the things on will communicate with the Smith and others that may be affected, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't name any names, but, and I'm certain they weren't speaking on behalf of the Smith, but a lot of the positive responses I got were from current or past Smith board members. Yes.
I was concerned about the Sunday, but the thing is, maybe Gordy's right, maybe we should give it a shot and see what happens. We can always change it after. Let's give it a shot. We tried it last year, it worked out pretty good for Friday and Saturday. Maybe some of those stores on Sumter Street, if we draw enough people in on Sunday on Linden Street, maybe they'd stay open, do a little business. Let's give it a shot and see what happens. If it don't work out, we can always change it.
I did hear from one of the residents down along Linden Street late this afternoon, and so I wanted to bring up one thing that makes sense to me in regards to Sunday, was that Sunday's a school night, essentially. Everybody's got to go back to work in the morning. So the concern was noise bleeding, things like that, going on late as if it were a Friday or Saturday night. Typically, our Friday and Saturday nights are when people go out and enjoy the evening and go a little later than they typically would on a work night. So I would think it makes sense to scale back the time frame as far as outdoor came at like 11 o'clock on a Sunday night to me seems a bit too much too late. But I do understand the opportunity that a Sunday closure brings for things, some of the restaurants, for example, for Sunday brunch and things like that are more family friendly out in the sunshine during the daytime hours. So I like the Sunday concept, but I do think that there should be some concern with, kind of winding things down as if it were a regular weeknight.
Can always change the time.
So if you do you have a thought in mind, Jason, in terms of out of there by 10 and
The person-
off the music by 8, or what do you think?
This resident that reached out to me is in favor of the proposal in general, just wanted to say, I'm here, and this is one of my concerns. He only proposed coming back now.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't, he didn't say shut
Shut
it down.
music back in hour.
Yeah, it didn't say shut it down when the streetlights come on.
Okay.
Reasonable expectations need to come out.
So is there support on the floor for operating guidelines to be put forward as proposed by the Linden Street Merchants Group?
With my,
With subject to positive performance?
What's the exact Sunday? Is it every Sunday?
Yes, every Sunday. Yeah.
Closure starts Sunday at what time? Or is it doesn't
As-
stop on Saturday?
If the proposal as presented is 5 p.m. Saturday through 3 a.m. Monday, except for a modification maybe.
Sunday's
that's-
closed 24 hours.
Yes.
And the thought was to try it that way, see what's happening, and
Yeah, I can't support
Modification.
it. That's okay.
you can't, yeah.
I don't-
So my thinking was the same as yours, Ken, initially for Sunday, and I guess I probably wouldn't support it every Sunday.
I think what we're trying to do here is allow an opportunity from the businesses in that area to create some commerce. If we see a street that's closed all day Sunday with nothing happening, well, then we need to ask the businesses, is it necessary to maintain this closure?
I'm okay with that. That's a logical statement of procedure.
As presented.
As presented, we can have the vote. Clerk, call a roll, please.
Council Valentino?
Aye.
Council D'Amico?
Aye.
Council Marino?
Aye.
Council Eddington?
I,
Council Rico?
Aye.
Council Cameron?
No.
Council Gramley?
Aye.
Council Hageman?
Aye.
Mayor Alkert?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next item is a resolution authorizing the lease for 100 to 108 Castle Street.
Thank you, Mayor. Council will recall from our conversations in January, the city's economic development strategy that's based in a food and beverage innovation district. And the concept is effectively that we want to support entrepreneurs from the idea stage all the way through full-scale production. Today, and as presented in January, we have a lot of infrastructure support for our entrepreneurs, or particularly our food and beverage entrepreneurs, at the end of that scale. So we do have, for full-scale production, we have available land that is part of the Startup New York incentive package that is heavily marketed by the Tech Farm. From a small-scale production standpoint, food production standpoint, we have the Technology Farms Flex Tech space and 2 small to medium-scale production facilities, both of which are occupied today, thankfully. But what we're missing is that point of entry and the middle mile. And so we've been doing work over the last 8 months on a concept that we've been calling the Geneva Entrepreneurs Lab. The concept is a co-work space, which is to say a space where up to 12 entrepreneurs, firms will be able to work at a given time. It's a wide open floor plan where entrepreneurs will share administrative things like Wi-Fi, utilities, copiers, conference rooms, etc. And they will, in exchange for that, they'll pay, what we would consider to be a pretty heavily subsidized rate. We're playing around with the rates now between $150 and $250 a month, which we think is a great deal, and particularly considering the fact that it's a complete package from a facility standpoint. Layered on top of that, on top of the physical space, is support for entrepreneurs programmatically via our small business counseling services, via specialized facilitation through business planning, business finance, law, etc., access to venture capital. And those are all things that we do today on a much bigger scale, but that we'd be able to focus if we had 12 entrepreneurs in the seat, in those respective seats, concentrated in a specific area. So what this really is the gateway to the Food and Beverage Innovation District and stage one of our entrepreneurial support program. Also over that past multiple months, we've been putting together a funding plan to ensure that this is sustainably funded through its startup phase. And like we've done with other innovative programs, we've identified a funding source that will carry this through its first 3 years. And then we would ask City Council to we would conduct an evaluation and advise City Council on what we think your role should be moving forward. So the lease at 108 Castle Street is the former Cast TV building. The space is a little raw. It hasn't been used in a while. Regardless of the name, it does have fewer TVs in it than the GEDC does. But the project would soak up 3 storefronts on what I call a trip hammer block. We're looking to really funnel development up Castle Street as part of our expansion. It's kind of one of the few remaining dead spots in downtown. This is at the corner of Genesee and Castle. This is support from the idea stage. So what we have identified are funding partners to support us in the initial build out. And today we secured the last of that funding through the LDC. The IDA, the LDC, and Community Development Block Grant funds will support a $50,000 build out at the space. CDBG funds will support the first 3 years of facility operations. So effectively, we've got the full infrastructure cost covered without seeking general fund support. And we have the existing programming in place to focus at this site. But don't forget, we will be charging a fee to enter. So we anticipate that at full velocity, we can collect between $20,000 and $30,000 a year in rents, which ultimately could be either funneled back into this project or used for other entrepreneurial support activity, which would be our recommendation. So what we're doing is, yes, Ken?
What were the 3 funding sources?
The Community Development Block Grant Program income, the Industrial Development Agency, and the Local Development Corporation.
Okay, thank you.
Each pitched in a third of the cost.
You got the county in there, the county?
The county, we've approached for funding. Any funding we receive from Ontario County or HWS will go toward programming, enhanced programming costs. We have a great slate of programming today that we can offer within our existing economic development program, but we could enhance that through funding sources that haven't been committed yet, but that wouldn't be required to provide a base level of programming. So what we're seeking tonight is authorization from City Council to execute a 3-year lease for 108 Castle.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Hagan moved. Councilor,
The guy over here.
that guy over there, camera, seconded. Discussion.
Got a question, do we, I like how it's proposed, it's kind of like a Shark Tank here, but do we know, is there a level of need that we know specifically for this right now?
Absolutely. It's we're already receiving inquiries.
As I understand, some of the box stores, Staples included, are doing things like this, trying to reuse some of their space.
Yeah, we-
Staples doing something similar, I don't know if the Geneva one is.
Yeah, we visited. It's very interesting. The co-work concept isn't new. It's not something Geneva invented. We actually, Anne Marie Buckley's been on our support team through this. We visited multiple sites. We went to one in Ithaca, which is run by Cornell. So it, of course, looks like something that Cornell would run. It's super slick and very active. It's in a downtown spot. There's one there's a bunch in Rochester. The one we visited repurposed an old industrial building. So we were cautioned, and I think appropriately so, to not try to solve a real estate problem with this. So we looked at lots of different buildings and thought about how we wedge it in here or there. We just happened to be able to align this challenge with a great real estate opportunity in an area downtown that we want to focus on.
I think it's a great spot, and you should enhance that part of Castle Street. And one question I have is the $50,000 build-out. I'm not sure if you can say if you could ever run into a problem, but how did you come up with a number, and do you feel like it's adequate? Is there any potential surprises?
Yeah, well, there's always potential surprises, and $50,000 gets us, an end product that we're satisfied with. So this isn't the City of Geneva engaging contractors to go in and do the work. This is an agreement with the landlord that for $50,000 you will deliver us a space that looks like this.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah.
And that $50,
Renegotiated.
you would bring it up to code.
Oh yes, be 100% code compliant, and in effect, we evaluated a lot of different opportunities, and in our conversation with the property owner, the idea was they could invest, they could put their money in and bill back a higher rent rate, market rent rate, if you will, or we could invest up front and pay a below market rent rate, which is where we landed.
But you have a, so to speak, a spec on what the
Yes,
space
it's been
would look
architecturally
like?
designed.
Okay.
Yes.
How far of a range are we going to market the pitch concept, the entrepreneur aspect to, we want to cast a wide net, I would imagine?
Oh yeah, very broadly, it's great, all the conversations we're having. I think I mentioned to you at the January retreat that Hobart and William Smith just recently launched their entrepreneurialism program. There's a crop there, there's a crop of Cornell folks who aren't at the production or research stage that might not make sense in the tech farm that would make perfect sense here. We're going to cast like you say, a very wide net. We want to make a big deal about this.
Do you think there's probably an advantage over the tech farm because there's that cider place right across the street?
Location is no mistake. Absolutely.
I think this is a great opportunity. We talked a lot of people about what keeps people in Geneva, especially young people that are moving into a business atmosphere, and this entrepreneurship. I can just see something really cool coming out of this. And I'm wondering that entrepreneur that invents or develops something, if they're going to remember this opportunity.
Yeah, I'm excited about this as well. I'm also excited about getting a little activity on Castle Street, especially that area. Since I have a business on Castle Street, and we seem to be the redheaded stepchild of downtown Geneva. So it's nice to see the initiative going in there, and I'm excited about this. I know other communities do this, and they're very successful. So I think it's a great program. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Counselor Hagerman?
Aye.
Counselor Gramlin?
Aye.
Counselor Valentino?
Aye.
Counselor D'Amico?
Aye.
Counselor Marino? Aye. Counselor Edington?
Aye.
Counselor Rico?
Aye.
Counselor Cameron?
Aye.
Mayor Alford?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next item is a resolution establishing a college area livability task force. It's tough to say.
It's tough to say, and it was a tough name. The name is in play, so anybody who's got a better name for it, bring it out. We're looking for lots of creative suggestions. So, how we got here, and Councilor Marino, I'll never make that mistake. Councilor Marino, for one of her very first meetings, even before council convened originally, talk passionately about, getting things moving as it relates to livability in the neighborhoods surrounding the colleges. So for the past 8 years, we've met quarterly. We have great lunches out at the Scanlon Center, and we talk about the challenges associated with living in a neighborhood with college students. And college students are there, and college leadership is there, and we brainstorm a lot, and then we walk away, and some of the energy dissipates. We nudge things along a little bit here and there, but there's really no multidisciplinary or multi-agency focus. HWS has done a lot in their regard. The city has done a lot in our regard. We partner when we can, but we really need somebody or some group that's looking over, all pieces of this puzzle. And so, a couple of months ago, the 3 at-large counselors met with a representative of colleges, Rob Flowers, and discussed, what's happening, what's the college doing, what's the city doing, and would you be willing to sit across from us? The key to moving any effort like this forward is having people at the table who can commit to a plan of action and who can bring resources to the table. So we are looking for key decision makers from City Council, which is why we've made the suggestions we've made. We are looking for a key decision maker from the colleges, which is why we're requesting, and we've received confirmation that there will be a representative from the President's office on this, on the task force if it develops. And we're seeking neighbors who are living this every day, who are living next door to college students, who are living on streets that are impacted by college students. It's a challenge. It's something that every city with any significant kind of college is grappling with, and any significant level of off-campus housing is grappling with. We're not alone, but we want to be a leader, and so we want to develop these solutions. So the task force would be an ongoing program. It would be something that is not term limited, not calendar limited. It's not something that we're going to set a plan, enact a plan, and then de-emphasize it. This is something, the challenging part about dealing with college students is that assuming you can train a new group of off-campus students to live in a community of permanent residents, they graduate and the next group comes in. And so this isn't something that we're going to solve in 6 months, like a task force you might see on something else. This is an ongoing project, an ongoing program. And so we would be asking for council and the college's support for this on an ongoing basis. The charge would be to solicit feedback from residents in impacted neighborhoods to see if we can identify themes, identify specific patterns of activity, clarify those, develop those out into particular issue clusters, and then facilitate solutions with the chief of police, who would be on the committee, the director of neighborhood initiatives, who needs more night meetings, as many as we can jam in. She loves night meetings. Myself, the counselors in the college, facilitate those solutions, coordinate action items, and then advise council and keep everybody in the loop. But we want this to move. And so our recommendation is for council to establish this group for the at-large counselors and the first ward counselor to be appointed to the group, along with myself, the chief of police, and the director of neighborhood initiatives, and to actively seek out 2 resident representatives of the impacted neighborhoods.
A motion? Councilor Hagerman, second. Councilor Arlington. Discussion? Jason?
Just a quick question. The colleges, I think I remember this when you first suggested this, they're supportive of this task force too.
They are.
Oh, yeah.
So they're looking forward to inclusion. Okay, fine.
Yes.
I attended University of Buffalo, and just like the city manager said, the neighborhoods around the college area, you got students that just have a different mindset and aren't aware of their impact on the neighborhood. So I like this approach.
He's probably still talking about you.
Not me, it's country Bob.
There's a marker on the street up there.
Just the name. And even if you remove the word task, I think you're making an improvement there, but you know, that when we talk about a task force, it sounds too military-ish.
Yeah, and when I read that, my first thought was, does this mean it's temporary? Because I hear that, and I think this is gonna be temporary, we're gonna move on.
Not unless you solve all the problems in the first year.
Yeah,
One needs one meeting.
Yeah. And one of my other thoughts was, I'd like the opportunity for a student rep to be on the committee, somebody at the ground level who can role model for the other students, share our messages.
I think that's a great idea. I've been talking with the students and engaging with the students as well, and they expressed interest, you know. I think it'd be more effective if it's more of a collaborative thing.
I'm just going to say, Angelina, we had a discussion about adding more residents. Maybe, I know you've got several different areas of your ward that have concerns. Maybe limiting it to 2 is not going to be enough.
Right,
We
so
don't
I
want
was
to
gonna make
overburden
that,
it.
yeah, I was gonna make that suggestion as well, and we did have somebody come up to the podium last month and suggest somebody from Ward 5 even, who's
Right.
on the other end of Maine, so
Right.
I would like to see that number at least go to at least 3, if not 4, to cover the whole perimeter of all the college neighborhoods.
So the formula behind what you see here is it's 9, which is a lot to align schedules. Now, 4 of those are compulsory, so you'll get us whether whether Sage likes it or not. But that's what you get for sitting on the front row. So you'll get. But the challenge is just. But I mean, if they're passionate about it, maybe it's possible. We just got to find a big meeting.
I just would like to say, student, you need more than one. I mean, that poor person, if they're gonna, how are they gonna take a message back to anybody by themselves? I mean, they have to be, they need more people. They need more people, more types of students on there, because you need a number of voices to speak to some of the solutions and that the task force comes up. Otherwise, that person's going to be a pariah. It's going to be the nerd person that keeps reminding us to behave.
Hall monitor.
Like the hall monitor,
I believe
the
that
counselor, so you've got to have,
they are
a cross-section of students there.
interested.
They're not all going to come all the time, but I think that would
Well, that's a good point. I mean, maybe not necessarily being part of this committee, but having this committee draw other people from that area in on events to get the buy-in. I mean, you need to create that culture change. And how do you create that culture change? I know having them commit to a monthly meeting or whatever this might be a challenge, but having them commit to a monthly event, you probably get some buy-in.
Well, you're buying lunch for them, and it's pricey downstairs, and that's, so I'm sure you'll get some.
Well, we're buying lunch too.
They're serving lunch.
We got to scale this committee back to 4 then.
It's not the same group, okay, got it.
No, and this was going to take the place of that meeting, so
Yeah.
that meeting would go away, and this would become an evening commitment.
Gotcha.
So
No lunch.
I guess where I would say is you can add as many as you want. It's never going to be enough. We have at the quarterly meetings between 6 and 8 students who attend every time, and they're different 6 and 8, but they still feel like the pariah. I mean, it isn't a chance for us to listen to what the students don't like about how we live our lives. I mean, it's obvious it's a one-way conversation. And so, one of the things that when you get into committee operations is, if we want to hear from more residents, we've got 9 people here for 13,000. These 2 are not the voice of the residents. These 2 are a consistent couple of people who are coming regularly and hearing and listening and giving a perspective, but we should be, or the committee should be, having a section of your agenda, like we do here, a section of your agenda dedicated to public comment. So there are public meetings, there are open meetings, we invite residents to come, and if 100 residents want to come this week and none want to come next week because they got it all out and they're confident that we're working on it, great. A number of specifically designed resident feedback sessions. We want to hear from the district attorney, but we're not going to put him on here. So we invite the district attorney to come and speak one night and talk to us about what goes on there. We want to hear from the city judges, but we're not going to put a judge on the panel. So I think the task force itself is representative, and then you provide opportunities for broader engagement through these agenda-driven, meeting schedules.
I think this will be a more effective way than the lunch meetings that you did get a handful of students, but the students that did come, were the good students.
Right, that's the other problem.
But the focus students. And I think it's important too to have different areas represented. There's Hamilton Street, there's Pulteney Street, there's Delancey, there's Washington. So I think everybody should have a voice, and exactly how many. You don't want dozens of people, but I think you have to represent everybody where there is encroachment by kids living. And every year that gets to be more. So, it's an issue that never got really strong response from the college. So I just think we need to let them know that we're a little more serious about it and try to do something.
Clerk, call the roll, please.
Council Haberman?
Aye.
Council Cameron?
Aye.
Council Graham?
Aye.
Council Valentino?
Aye.
Council D'Amico?
Aye.
Council Marino? Aye. Council Rico?
Aye.
Council Eddington?
Aye.
Mayor Allen.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next item is a resolution amending the capital plan for public art installation.
So council will recall from your January retreat, you can see we're moving down these retreat items, checking them off for you. You'll recall from your January retreat that as part of the 2016 capital plan, we have partnered with the Seneca Lake Wine Trail for development of a trailhead feature in Geneva. The benefit of this is that it would be marketed by the wine trail as a point of entry to the trail, and that any visitors who were researching Seneca Lake as a wine destination would see Geneva prominently showcased. The original idea, and working with the executive director of the wine trail, we had originally identified Bicentennial Park as the appropriate location. The trail board of directors sent some representatives up after we had all kind of shaken hands and said, well, it would be great to get this a little closer to the water. We want to be in a spot where where you can have an immediate tie-in with the lake, and so their proposal is to take that idea and locate it at the corner of routes 5 and 20 and the entry to Lakefront Park. It would be on the northeast corner where the old sign is today, the old Lakefront Park sign sits today. The trail has effectively said, and they asked me to carefully lay this out, but effectively they're not interested in continuing with a project at Bicentennial Park. So it's not this or nothing, but it's not Bicentennial Park. And so if we're not inclined to site it at this location, my suggestion would be to take it off of the capital plan for 2016 and bump it forward while we negotiate a partnership. The location is great. It's got obvious ready access to the lake, ready access to parking. The general idea, the way it's been described to us is it's when you're going to the Napa Valley, through the Napa Valley, there are these iconic picture moments that you see all over Instagram and all of the social media sites that I'm not cool enough to know about yet. They're all over those. And right away, that's Napa Valley. I know exactly what I'm talking about. They want this to be, this is Seneca Lake. This is the Finger Lakes. And so the good news is I'm not designing the feature, and neither is the executive director of the Wine Trail. The Public Art Commission has established a design competition for the piece, which will be decided upon by representatives of the Art Commission, the Wine Trail, and and others. So staff recommendation is to move forward with the proposal as presented, and the alternative would be to wait until 2017 and attempt to renegotiate location.
Your motion?
Motion.
Counselor Atkins, second Counselor Cameron. Discussion? Okay.
A couple of questions. The first one is there, I don't see a dollar amount here.
There is no change from the 2016 capital plan. It was $25,000 allocation from the city.
So that for the public's benefit, that's right?
Yes.
Okay. The second thing is, I wanted to ask was, what made them pick the Bicentennial Park at the beginning, at first?
Yeah.
What was about it that we,
Well, so the Wine Trail came to us, the executive director of the Wine Trail came to us and said, you know, this is what we're thinking. We're thinking about a trailhead feature. And we started thinking about places we were trying to activate, you know, in Geneva, and Bicentennial Park was something that jumped out at us as a place we wanted to activate. We took them down. It was a beautiful sunny day. You know, you can right away, two guys who don't know anything about art stand up on the Bicentennial Park plateau and say, yep, this is it. Throw a little sign over there, put a little arch there, they can park there, let's go home. And when the actual winery owners came back, they said, no, we prefer to be a little closer to them.
so, okay, now, the thing is that, is this art going to be built in such a way that it is portable, so that if for some reason in the future we want to move it, we're not destroying it in the process? Is it somehow
So what we do as part of our
not portable to be stolen, but
Yeah, but
portable
what we-
enough to...
What we do as part of our public art program is we have accessioning policy. We have an accessioning policy, which is to say, we only accept art based on certain criteria. And we can, and that criteria is established piece by piece. And so we can say, you know, we could tell the artists that we want to be able to move this. Everything you do, every limitation you place on a piece of art, kind of, I won't use the word corrupt, but changes the way, it changes the boundaries inside, from inside which the artist can work. And so we've tried to make it as loose as possible, mostly to say, if we have to move it and we move it and it breaks, you're not going to get mad at us. You know, one of those things. But I would say we haven't discussed the ability for it to be moved, but if that were a priority of City Council, we could have that discussion.
Okay, the reason I'm just going to, I'll stop talking to you in a minute. You all are familiar with my recommendations for what we should do with Bicentennial Park. It's a complete, you know, it's a flattening, it's the whole idea of putting the grape, you know, the vine motif there, to put kiosks for wineries to use, flatten the site out. So it's the second venue for like a small, you know, festival commons for the city. And, you know, cover the Castle Creek there and put parking in a whole bit. And if that ever does come to pass, long after I'm gone, I'd like if they wanted to move the, you know, art back into the Bicentennial Park because it's so sexy and cool, and it's drawing people into downtown, then that's the reason I'm asking. So, if anybody wants my proposal for the Bicentennial Park, I'd be happy to send it to you. It's only 8 years old.
Oh, I'd be interested to see your design for the,
I'm not competing for it. I already did this. Thank you for my platform.
Just, this resolution is to approve the location of the,
Location change, yeah.
just a change of location.
and we put two pieces of art down on the lakefront when we did phase one.
Yeah.
And we got to look at them before they went in.
No.
We did.
Yeah, and I'm just, do we get that look?
Yeah, both, I mean, both, the Wine Trail's going to approve it and the council will approve it. Yeah.
Clerk call roll.
Counselor Atkins?
Aye.
Counselor Bidwell?
Aye.
Counselor Hagerman?
Aye.
Counselor Bramley?
Aye.
Counselor Elton?
Aye.
Counselor Benito?
Aye.
Counselor O'Neill?
Aye.
Counselor Cameron?
Aye.
Mayor Alkins?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item is a resolution authorizing the lease of 35 Lakefront Drive. Ma'am?
Council, you held your public hearing a few moments ago. We have negotiated a lease with H&J for a 3-year extension for payments totaling 12% of food and beverage revenue each year, mandatory minimums of $9,000 in 17 and $12,000 in each of 18 and 19. The lease does contain a provision that allows the city to market the site ourselves for events that are non-food and beverage events. And we will actively engage with that. Those will be offered to us, those dates are offered to us at no cost. There would be no fee to us to make that happen. If we were going to charge a fee, we could recoup that money ourselves. So staff's recommendation, as we noted during council's intent resolution, is to move forward with this, understanding that the long-range vision of council is to find a way for the city to capture more events and additional revenue, and to engage in a planning process that realizes that vision at the conclusion of the lease.
So motion. Council Valentino, second. Council Graham. Steve?
Yeah, I think I voiced my concern last month pretty clearly that I wasn't tickled pink about the amount. I know there's a concept that we're going to create revenue a lot more than what this rent amount is, and to me it's a challenge just looking at the rent amount, because if it falls flat at that, it'd be a major disappointment. So looking at the 2017, 18, and 19 agreement that we're putting in place, and I mentioned this at last month's meeting, I'm going to keep mentioning it. By 2018, I would like to see viable alternatives so that both the city and H&J can understand where we're headed in the future with this. Because they're going to need, like they ran into this time, you know, when they start running out of a contract, they slow down on the marketing efforts, and it affects the ability for us to market this facility and bring people into that venue and enjoy it. So I don't want to be caught late in this process. I want to make sure we're ahead of that, and hopefully early in 2018 we can look at alternatives so this council can make a decision on whether we continue with contracts or whether we take some alternative.
I know H&J would be thrilled to have that guidance too.
We should probably take a look at that even in 17. Just in my experience, some weddings and big ticket items, some of them were booking 2 years out of it. Just one.
Clerk call the roll.
Council Valentino?
Aye.
Council DeMico?
Aye.
Council Carino?
Aye.
Council Eddington?
Aye.
Council Rico?
Aye.
Council Heineman?
Aye.
Council Cameron?
Aye.
Council Graham? Mayor Alcott?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next item is an ordinance amending Chapter 335 of the Geneva Municipal Code, Vehicles and Traffic. This is the first reading.
Yes. So at council's direction, based on a citizen referral, a constituent referral, we conducted an evaluation of streets that the DPW, Police Department, and Fire Department identified as something they would consider to be narrow streets. Based upon that, and then looking at emergency vehicle access on those streets and functionality of the street as it relates to the parking requirements. What came out of that is a series of recommendations. We put forward those recommendations in another kind of aggressive public outreach campaign. You might have seen the very attractive signs located at the corner of your favorite street. The proposal is for Davis Street to permit no parking on the east or west sides from the intersection of High Street to 25 feet in. That's kind of a standard. What we're looking at for each of these narrow streets is hemming back parking about 25 feet from the intersection to ensure we get good visibility. So the only change on Davis would be that we would restrict it, no parking from 25 feet from the intersection of High Street. On Nagel Place, to restrict parking to the east side of the street. Today it's permitted on both sides. We would require that it be permitted only on the east side. That we also not permit any parking 25 feet from either intersection, the intersection with William or Washington Street. On North Morale, restricting parking to the east side of the street not permitting parking within 25 feet of the Washington Street intersection. On Rose Street, restricting parking to the east side of the street. No parking within 25 feet of the intersection of North Street or John Street. On Optical, restricting parking to the west side of the street. No parking within 25 feet of the intersections of Lyceum or High Street.
So a motion, Council Valentino, second Council Gramley. Discussion, Brady?
I have received phone calls from the residents about Thistle Street, and I believe other councilors have. I guess I have to, I probably will not vote on that as a total, if it's a total package, based on, the several phone calls that I have received. I have looked at the street. It's definitely different than the other ones that are, it's definitely wider, not a lot wider than the other streets that are in the motion. I hate to go against staff recommendation, whatever. I know when this first started, it was really tuned toward Nagel Place and problems there. We did talk to the people there, and we had pretty well, myself, Councilor D'Amico and Gramling, pretty much got a good consensus that everyone wanted that. So I guess I'm just going to say that I will have to, if the resolution stays as it is, I will have to vote against it.
Well, it's the first reading, so we're not voting.
Right, first reading.
We're voting, but
Well, wait a minute, won't be.
I would like to propose an amendment. And my amendment would be on the Optical Street section to eliminate the sentence that says no parking on the east side of the street. Leave the 25 feet marking on both ends so that it creates a safety lane for turning into that street, but eliminates the no parking on the east side of that street. And I so move.
I second.
Is that the street you're talking about?
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second for the amendment, and well, read that amendment again.
Just to remove the sentence where it says no parking on the east side of the street. Everything else stays the same. The rest of it reads no parking on the east or west side from the intersection of Lyceum to a point of 25 feet southerly. And the rest of it is no parking on either side of the intersection with High Street to a point of 25 feet northerly. So on each end of the street, 25 feet in on either side, no parking. The rest of it stays as it is. Parking on both sides. Anyway.
You said it kind of funny because it's you said.
Just remove the one sentence.
he's got it.
Remove the no parking on the east side of the street, life will be good.
Right.
So you do have a motion.
We have a motion and a second, so we'll vote on the amendment. Clerk call the roll.
Council Valentino?
Aye?
Council D'Amico?
Aye.
Council Marino?
Aye.
Council Griego?
Aye.
Council Hagan?
Aye.
Council Cameron?
Aye.
Council Gramley?
Aye.
Council Eddington?
Aye.
Mayor Albright?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right. The original ordinance. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on the original? Okay. Clerk call the roll, please.
Council Valentino?
Aye.
Council D'Amico?
Aye.
Council Marino?
Aye.
Council Eddington?
Aye.
Council Griego?
Aye.
Council Hagan?
Aye.
Council Cameron?
Aye.
Council Gramley?
Aye.
Mayor Albright?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. Next item is a resolution confirming appropriate procedure. Councilor D'Amico.
Yes, I asked for this to be put on the agenda as a resolution, but I have a request to amend the second last paragraph. I want to eliminate the part that says, be it further resolved that the council has determined that the conditions surrounding the matter at hand did not rise to the level of emergency consideration and thus the action was improper and shall be reversed. I can't make that suggestion because I was not on the prevailing side. So even though I agree with what it says, I want to take that out of the resolution that I will be proposing tonight. So I'll make that motion to amend.
Well, there's not a motion.
First,
Put it
we
on
gotta
the
get
floor.
I haven't put it on the floor yet, so. We need a motion to
I make,
put the resolution.
put it on the floor.
Okay, Counselor Robinson, second.
Second.
Counselor Marino.
So I would like to restate my motion to amend, and then I want to speak a little bit about why I asked for this. So,
Okay. Motion to amend, we have a second.
Sure.
Counselor Valentino. Okay, we'll vote on the amended. Amended.
Removing that one.
removing it.
Clerk call the roll, please.
I'm trying to understand.
He's removing the third paragraph up from the bottom.
And I commend Councilor D'Amico because he's accurate with the statement.
All right.
Counselor D'Amico?
Aye.
Counselor Marino?
Aye.
Counselor Eddington?
Aye.
Counselor Grego?
Aye.
Counselor Hagerman?
Aye.
Counselor Campbell?
Nay.
Counselor Bradley?
Aye.
Counselor Valentino?
Aye.
Mayor Allen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay.
And I don't want to rehash the amendment that, the resolution that came to the city council without being on the agenda. But I was part of a city council in 2006 and 7 where that happened on a regular basis, and the outcry from the public was that, it's not an appropriate practice. And since then, it hasn't happened. And also since then, a year or two, I think 2 years ago, Councilors DiCostanzo and Augustine redid and enhanced adopted rules of procedure. And the rules, what happened with that resolution that was proposed on the day of our council meeting did not come to the council the appropriate way. And I think it's important, because even after that, after the discussion, after people watching the meeting, some people that were part of the city councils during that stretch of time, and a few residents have stated that a bit of a concern that could happen again. And I just want a reconfirmation from this group. And what I said last meeting was, I want to give Councilors Bramley and Marino a pass because of being that it was only their first or second meeting. But also, I think it's important for this council, being new, we're going to be together a long time, to reconfirm to the public that that's not going to be the way we conduct business moving forward.
Anybody else? Questions? Steve?
Yeah, just a couple of points on this resolution. I appreciate Councilor D'Amico's removal of that because his procedural motion made complete sense to me. I was definitely not going to support it for a few reasons, but that was one of them in particular, so I appreciate that very much so. The third whereas, where it talks about the regular meeting on February 3rd, 2016, heard an unscheduled presentation. And then if you go down to the next whereas, where it references no later than 6 days prior to the council, an action on the council agenda should be submitted no later than 6 days prior to the council meeting. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 whereas is down where it reads, it should be it, has been asserted that more robust preparation and discussion were prevented by the immediate nature of this request. I would like to refer to an email from Councilor Camera to all of this council and the city manager, which was sent on Monday, January 18, 2016 at 10:47 a.m.
Thank you, Steve.
and it's multiple paragraphs, but I will just highlight some of that, where Councilor Cameron explained in depth his reasoning for supporting a resolution. And the specific highlight I'm talking about where Councilor Cameron says, I am proposing an allocation of $5,000 from Geneva. This is the right time to do for several reasons. And he lists 4 specific reasons on why he felt it was important for us as a council to support the resolution and the up to expenditure of $5,000. And his last sentence was, so I wanted to let you know about this particular issue that is on my mind, among others, and request that it be placed on the agenda for February City Council meeting, 16 days prior to the City Council meeting.
I think my point is it wasn't on the agenda and the public had no ability to have any input on that. So unless the whole of the city is going to be privy to our city council emails, then that procedure is still not acceptable.
Maybe a point of information here, the discussion was on the agenda.
Yep.
Wasn't it? It was on the agenda to discuss.
To discuss, not
Okay,
to.
the point is you misrepresented it here. I didn't violate the 6-day rule, but in here it says I did. Okay, just so people out there, you understand what we're talking about. I'm a little bit of a, I get a little excited about things. I'm very excited and very upset about the landfill over in Seneca Falls, which is decimating that community. And I wasn't prepared completely for what I needed to do, which was to create a resolution and to get it in 7 days before the council meeting. But I did have that item on the agenda for discussion. And when it came up to it, we had a discussion. We were looking for nodding heads about the $5,000 allocation to put our ore in the water, along with Seneca County's, Seneca County Board of Supervisors, to lobby the state and the city of New York to give us a chance to respond to the problem that there may be garbage trains coming to the northern Finger Lakes. Now, there's already garbage trains coming to High Acres over in Massillon from New York City. And the fact is that if you look at that landfill over there, it's a little more protected from the residents, but the residents live all around it.
Ken, before we get too deep.
No, I'm going to finish what I'm going to say. I'm going to finish what I'm going to say.
Can we get to the point though?
We're going to get to the point.
I don't need to hear about.
So I got excited just the way I am right now.
Resolution.
And I got
Well, I'm
excited.
gonna get excited too.
And the fact is that I do feel it's a very important matter that this community has got to stand up for itself. And when we have someone else fighting that landfill, we can pile on and help, because we have our own interests at stake here. So that's where I feel. This resolution misrepresents what happened. It's a factual error, and I'm not going to support it. And I thank you, Steve, for bringing this up.
It was presented in an email for discussion. It was not, it went past discussion, it went to a resolution that was passed by the majority. And to me, that is not appropriate, proper business. Okay? And that's, you can go through these words and modify them some, but I'm talking about how we elect to do business, and I still believe that it's not the content of what you presented, okay, because we're all on record as not supporting the trash can.
And I agree, I screwed up on procedure.
Okay,
I
so
understand.
that's what this is.
Okay.
This is something we're aware of, and we don't want to do this again.
Okay, and that's
That's what I was
fine.
putting out there.
On the resolution, but not on the agenda item.
Your Honor?
And you all got my apology.
Please. Rules of order.
Okay, Councilman Hagerman.
Do we need a resolution on this?
It's on the table.
It was requested.
It's on the table, it's a resolution.
It is typically, our procedurally, what we typically do is to have something on the agenda so that the general public has that information. There are exceptions if there's a timely situation, as I understand, where that can be lifted. And with regard to that specific situation at that time, there was no impact to our budget. We were just simply allocating a very small portion within an already budgeted amount.
For outside counsel.
So there wasn't a financial impact to the taxpayer. So I just wanted to talk about
I'll be real quick. Your Honor, I'm happy that there's passion on this council. And I could get a little defensive too, but I had to step back and take a look at this. Councilor Cam, I appreciate your passion. Councilor D'Amico, same there. I compliment you guys and I respect that. Because whether it's procedure or whether it's our whole climate, I think it's important that we have that level of passion and keep bringing it to this table over and over again, even if it gets a little tenuous sometimes. It is a challenge. And based on rules of procedure, which we're going to talk about in 2 items, I have a few more comments other than that. I'll leave this one as is.
I was going to say, I was going to call you on something here, but okay.
Is there an opportunity to change the fact? I mean, okay.
No,
You can
resolution.
Because I'm understanding this to be confirming appropriate procedure. We're just recommitting to following the rules that were put into place.
Right.
We're going to talk about it in 2 more.
There are rules of procedure which Council Valentino's going to enlighten us with in a few minutes.
Yeah, you got it.
Anybody else? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Counselor Eddington,
Aye.
Counselor Rico,
Aye.
Counselor Haberman,
Nay.
Counselor Camera,
Nay.
Counselor Bramlin,
Aye.
Counselor Valentino,
Nay.
Counselor D'Amico,
Aye.
Counselor Marino,
Aye.
Mayor Lambert.
Aye. Next item is the discussion regarding council rules of procedure. Councilor Valentino.
Why we skip one? Oh, I thought it was 2 more. Sure, yeah, you might not want to go. I guess I wanted to talk about, number 1 is just a compliment to kind of reconfirm some comments I made earlier, I believe it was Councilor D'Amico, of the efforts that went in by Councilor DiCostanzo and Councilor Austin. They did a great job at trying to keep us to task, because we can get out of hand sometimes. We are passionate, as I just mentioned. So I'm going to try to stay focused here. There's only a few issues that I wanted to kind of focus on and address. We have 11 rules and procedures that we've accepted as a council. I want to reference number 2E, which is the removal or reordering of agenda items must be approved by majority vote prior to the commencement of the meeting's regular business. Regular business being defined as right after public comment on the agenda. That's going to be a challenge, because public comment is at the end of the meeting. So we've got to either make a change one way or another. I'll leave that one alone, because I imagine there's more discussion to be had there. I want to go to rule number 4. And I'll be the first one to admit that I violate this, and I think Councilor DiCostanzo is probably the strongest supporter of this, is giving everybody a chance to talk. And I can read it verbatim, but it's saying, listen, when you got an issue on the table, everybody should have an opportunity to say something about that issue. And you shouldn't have a second opportunity unless everybody else is done saying it. And you shouldn't interrupt somebody in the middle of their discussion. You should give them the respect to be able to complete what they're talking about, and then you can talk about your point of view. And if you want to talk about it a second time, which a lot of us do, give everybody else the opportunity to have their say before you jump in. So just, kind of pointing at some things that I think, I'll admit that I violate or we violate, that if we're going to recommit to one thing, we should recommit to all the rules on this. The last one I have is one that's close to my heart. It's number 11, remote participation in meetings. And when I did a remote participation, it was pretty interesting. It was a little historical, actually. It was last October, I think, and maybe November. It was around Thanksgiving. And I couldn't be at one of the meetings. So I did a remote Skyping, and I compliment city staff for doing what they did and made it work for me. There was a little resistance towards whether I could vote, whether I couldn't vote, whether I could speak, couldn't speak. And based on these rules, it allows one person from city council to participate remotely once per quarter. And if more than 2 councilors want to participate remotely, the first one that puts in the request is the one that's going to be allowed to do it. There also needs to be the devices in place, so you have to give enough notice for the city clerk to take care of business and for our technician people to be able to set you up, and you got to be signed in and Skypeable or remotely contactable before the meeting starts. There also needs to be, and this is yet to be worked out, that I'd like to see it taken care of, there needs to be the ability for that person that's participating remotely to have a verbal presence in the meeting so that everybody can hear the voice of that council member. And it also states here that that person that's attending remotely shall count towards a quorum. And it doesn't state specifically, but if you're counting towards a quorum, your vote should count. So I just want to put that on the table for discussion. Or agreement. I don't know.
I agree with everything, except I think we could just remove after regular business, you could just remove regular business being defined as, you can remove the rest of that sentence.
Hopefully, okay.
And it reads perfectly well that way.
Yep. It just, yeah. Yeah, it's just, you know,
This is just discussion.
and Mayor, there was another,
Again?
yeah, I'm sorry.
You want to discuss?
Number 8 takes care of what you said.
I 100% agree. I feel like if you're doing the work and you're sitting 400 miles away, but you're still actively engaged, then yes, absolutely, vote should count.
And he did say historical, not hysterical.
Yeah.
It
It was pretty funny.
was a little confusing during my bad ears, so. Anybody else?
I remember the discussion from this early on, and, you know, availability of suitable equipment, you know, if we have that changes my thinking, I'm okay with that. But there was also discussion, I don't know if anybody remembers it, maybe the same way I do, but this part of it was not included in the original rules and that never officially adopted.
Yeah, it says it right there, that it's to be adopted in the future when we're satisfied that the equipment is.
So do we need to put this into an agenda item to adopt it as long as in further the discussion and make it an official rule of how we do business?
Yeah, and give us the opportunity to change a little word. too.
Sure. Yeah, we may want to tweak some words on it.
We need to know the cost, what it's gonna cost us for the equipment.
Well, as long as council is happy with the way that Steve's original project, or Skype-in was put together, that's no cost to the city.
I got another one if everybody's done.
It's your topic.
Just a compliment to the zoning board. The zoning board had one of their constituents that came from far away, not constituents, one of their people that were presenting in front of them that were putting up, might have been even an advanced auto building, I'm not positive, I can't remember. But they had to appear before zoning board. Well, they came up in some terrible weather and the zoning board meeting got canceled. So that person had to travel again for the next meeting, and they allowed them to Skype in. And I'll compliment Neil and the group. It went perfectly well. The Skype action took place, everything got taken care of. That board dealt with it very efficiently. There was also another event I was at the Human Rights Commission where Councilor Granley came and Skyped in. And we actually projected him on the wall, which is pretty cool. But it was very effective, and it added value to both of those meetings.
This is a very common practice throughout corporations, and it's the only thing that would probably add to this would be like desktop speakers, so the person who's Skyping could be heard. But other than that, it's pretty common, minimal.
Good. Jason?
I just wanted to say again, I guess, for the public interest, I didn't quite understand the rationale for limiting to one counselor and then as well as one time per quarter, but was explaining it's, the discussion just generally is more open and free when people are physically present. That was the rationale behind those limitations, but other than that, it's business is good all the time.
Thank you, Steve, for that.
Thank you.
Moving along to new business. Our first item is a resolution establishing a public hearing for the demolition request in the traditional urban design district. Matt?
So, section 351-9 of the municipal code outlines procedures for development, or I should say section 351 outlines procedures for development in the traditional urban design district, affectionately known as the TUD. The section requires that any demolition done in the district, be it partial or full demolition, first be subjected to a public hearing. The public hearing is hosted by the city council, and I'm going to give this caution now, and I'll give it again in May. The city council is prohibited by virtue of the code of ethics from participating in or engaging in public comment for the purposes of this project, because it will be appearing before the planning board following council's public hearing. So the project at hand is a building that was damaged at 29 Linden Street. It was damaged by winter storm activity during the 2015 winter. There's a proposal for partial demolition of the building. Planning board will take this up at their May meeting. This public hearing is set to be scheduled at the regular May council meeting.
Motion? Gordon, Steve? Seconds? I got a second.
Comments?
Comments? You have a comment? Okay. Jason?
Yeah, I was part of the whole TUD project, and one of the main rationales for that was to try to maintain the fabric of the downtown core with the historic buildings, contributing buildings and all that. It was felt that some buildings in Geneva, especially back when the economy locally was very poor, it seemed like some of the buildings fell to demolition by neglect. So I guess I'm curious to to understand more about that. I know all we're doing right now is setting a public hearing, but it's just want to put that up.
Is this the building that didn't have the water?
Yes.
Okay. And it's the other Cameron buildings, it doesn't have.
Does it have now or not?
Does it have?
Okay. Anybody else? Clerk call roll, please.
Counselor Eddington?
Aye.
Counselor Rico?
Aye.
Counselor Hagelin?
Aye.
Counselor Cameron?
Aye.
Counselor Gramlin?
Aye.
Counselor D'Amico?
Aye.
Counselor Marino? Counselor Valentino?
Aye.
Mayor Alcott?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next item is a discussion regarding the 2016 Parklet program.
As you'll recall, city staff rolled out a pilot program in 2015 for the development and installation of parklets. Parklets are part of what we would call tactical urbanism, which is kind of the opportunity to take some public space that's not traditionally used for public gathering or for green space and transition it into a small opportunity for outdoor dining, entertainment, green space, etc. The idea is that while the piece or while the fixture is installed by and paid for by a private business, that it is a public amenity and that it is open routinely or actually wholly to the public. So we rolled that out last year. You will recall on the front end of the conversation, one of the bigger issues that was anticipated was parking. So we designed a parking analysis whereby we collected parking samples 3 times per day, in the morning, at lunchtime, and in the afternoon, to determine what the parking impact was of installation of these 2 parklets. We conducted sampling prior to installation of the parklets, and then upon installation. And as we reported at the time, we saw no diminished, or relatively no, less than a space per day, diminishing of parking associated with the project. So we were able to address that issue kind of straight away. The other issues that came up were largely design related, so questions about what we would permit. Sage and I work on this a lot with a lot of different projects, and the planning and zoning boards work on it a lot. And the challenge with design, of course, is that it's subjective. What you and I think is attractive is one thing, and what others think is attractive is another. So it's one of those things where you kind of got to get a feel for what's in the downtown district and give some leniency or give some design direction to staff and let us operate inside of it. And kind of a know it when you see it thing, right? So what we're proposing is that for the 2016 year, we conduct another trial run, that we do it with some additional limitations. The limitations are reflective of the feedback we received in the areas of design, in the areas of operation, and related to parking. So we are recommending that up to 5 parklets be installed in the downtown district, but that no more than 1 parklet per block be authorized. We recommend that these be installed from the Friday before Memorial Day through Columbus Day. Any permit granted is for 1 season only. Future implementation is subject to reauthorization. So just like we just talked about with Linden Street, we come back here next spring and say, how did last year work? Did it make sense? Were there parking impacts? Were there design impacts? Were we satisfied with the design criteria we set up? Did they operate the way we hoped they would? Design would be subject to prescribed guidelines, which we provided to you. Again, it's not something where we lay out materials that can be used, where we lay out dimensions that we'll accept, but it more has to do with context sensitive design. What are your surroundings? What does the street look like today? How is the sidewalk oriented, etc. And giving staff the authority to grant those approvals. In terms of operation, they've got to be insured by the applicant, with the city named as an additional insured. If we're going to permit, or if you were as a business going to permit alcohol consumption on the site, that you do it in accordance with an issued liquor authority license. We would not permit smoking at all in the parklets, no smoking period. That you would install an educational piece that says what a parklet is, because we had a lot of questions about that last year. And that it is open to the public, kind of a welcoming piece that says, even if you're not our customer, please feel free to come and enjoy this. That parklets only be permitted to be open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And that all installation and maintenance costs are the responsibility of the applicant. So we're floating that tonight, looking for some guidance from City Council. There's no action to be taken tonight. We will take any feedback that you have, workshop it with staff, and if it's so directed, bring forward a resolution for the May meeting.
Start on that.
He was first.
Was he? Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Well, gentlemen.
I agree with the impacts and strategic imperatives that you list here. I can already hear my phone ringing, even though it's on silent, with the 5 installations. From looking at the data from last year, I know you took frequent audit of how many spaces were available. A couple of the tight times, there might have only been 1 or 2 spaces available. 5 sounds a little bit extreme to me to jump from 2 to 5. My suggestion would be to keep 2 installations, maybe increase it to 3 this year. Perhaps that way we would also, if there is demand for it, we'll maintain the demand so that businesses are competing in each season. I just want to see, instead of saying we'll limit, or we'll allow 5 and maybe only 2 or 3 look for it, then it's obviously a little interest has dropped.
Did we have 5 requests made?
We did not. We had 2.
Okay. I agree with Jason, and I think 5, based on the input that I heard prior to being on council or whatever, seemed that there were some issues. Maybe start small, and maybe go 2 or 3 or whatever, but really, I think the design, the criteria is really got to be monitored and enforced, so we're sure that they look appropriate.
Just any areas we're saying definitely no to. We're saying up to 5, whatever. We're saying in the downtown, any one per block. The definition of a block, and I'm thinking Linden Street, go Parkway, Linden Street, things go a little crazy. Are we saying no to certain areas?
It's a good question for council to think about. If you've got Linden Street already impacted with seasonal closures, you may say Linden Street's not in the running.
Yeah. You know, I'm definitely thinking Linden Street's out, and I'm thinking down on Exchange, south of Seneca, would make things a little complicated down there, so.
There's not a lot of businesses clamoring down there, so we could leave it off.
I'm just throwing out that there's probably some limitations where you don't. I can't think of any other ones. I imagine there's small ones that might be tight spots.
Yeah, well, the other thing I was,
Smith.
yeah, exactly.
Now, my question is, we've had a run at this, and we only had 2 requests, but we may have more, so how are we taking this? Is it going to be first come, first served basis, or,
Yeah.
That was one of the...
And I'll tell you, the barrier to entry here is cost. These things are not inexpensive to develop. I don't think Joe would mind me telling you that he spent $3,000 on his parklet. It was expensive to install, and they can be a challenge to operate, particularly if the city puts a bunch of onerous guidelines on you to operate them. They can be a challenge to operate. So our anticipation is, we've heard from people who are interested, and our anticipation is that the first come, first serve issue, particularly at 5, we didn't think we'd be worried too much about 5, but that the first come, first serve piece wasn't going to be an issue.
Last year I was a little skeptical, and I think there was one good one. I think the one at Lake Drum looked great, and it was used well and used a lot. And I think what hurts this discussion for me is the second one that really didn't look very nice, and all the comment that came after that. So when you said 5, I thought that was a lot, and I think having some kind of a design approval, I think we should make a decision soon so people have time to create a design, and let's do 2 right and then move on. If there's a best design, if you got to choose from something that's good, that's okay, but just because there are 2 applications and you can't just say throw anything else, anything you want in there, put it in the street, and we all got to look at it for 5 months. But I think there was one very good one and one very bad one. So I think it's hard to, it's possible if you go to 5, you have 1 good one and 4 bad ones.
Except that last year's program had no design criteria. I mean, we had 2, we had size criteria. It couldn't be bigger than 1 parallel space or 2 pull-in spaces. We had, and that was about it. And then we turned HWS students loose on design. And so if we're going to implement a design criteria, then, then we'll have to stick with that.
That's the only way I could support parklets at all.
Yeah.
I could see 3, but I can't see going to 5. We're taking some parking spaces up now. Go 5, you're taking up more parking spaces downtown, so I can see 3, but I can't see going to 5.
I got some feedback on the parklets last year. We saw some feedback in the newspaper and things like that. One person gave me some feedback on the one that some people didn't like, Joe's, and said that we needed to, that they went there at a specific time. Early evening, later in the day, not in the middle of the summer where it was sunny and everything else. And a lot of kids used it. They hung out there. And I don't think we should be in the business of saying which one was pretty and which one was ugly, as much as I think we need to give other restaurants and those kinds of things that are not in Linden Street an opportunity to have their own little kind of attraction. And so I'm for 5, I think. Can the 2 people who did it last year re-up?
They can reapply.
They can reapply. Well, I wouldn't want to, like, for example, say, well, you can reapply, Joe, but, you know, some of us didn't like the way you did it, and it was ugly, and we didn't. I don't think we should be getting into that.
But you just described design review. I mean, that's what the planning board does every day.
Yeah, well, so that's what I'd like to see council on that.
Out of it, oh yeah.
I want to see just making some opportunities for some of the other parts of downtown to have their own kind of specialness. And I see, yeah, there's good and bad designs, and some are successful, and some attract people, and some don't. And I think we're still in the experimental stage.
Well, as my grandfather used to say, I'm going to throw a skunk in the well. I was in favor of them last year. I'm not this year, for quite a few reasons. I don't think they came out as intended to be actual gathering spaces for people wandering around downtown. I think they ended up being additions to the restaurants or beverage bars, wherever they were in front of. And I don't think the public perceived them as a place where they could go sit down and take their kids down and, you know, walk their dog down and have an ice cream cone. So I don't think they really came off as we intended them to. The design was, say whatever you want to say.
Right.
Was beautiful, wasn't beautiful, I guess it's in the eye of the beholder. But I would rather see the city, we have wide sidewalks on Seneca Street and Exchange Street. We have some pretty big sidewalks. In most cities, they have take away the parklets. The cities have put in benches, and 4 facing benches or 2 facing benches and some bushes. That's a gathering place to me. And now another concern is we're taking parking off Linden Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we're going to impact the parking a little bit more than what we were last year. So I'm really not in favor of doing any of them. I would rather see us landscape our sidewalks and do something that way. It would cost money. It would be something we'd have to put in the budget for next year. But to me, my opinion, the parklets were a dismal failure. And somebody had their hand up.
Okay. I would be in support of the 5, and my thought process is that yes, the 2 last year, they really looked, they were sporadic. It was like, what the heck is that thing? Is it the bar? Is it whatever? But with 5, or more than 2 at least, with the signage, it would identify it as a parklet, and then maybe you could even go so far as to inside the business have a little map of the other parklets so that you can encourage people to walk around downtown to check out the other designs. And possibly even implement some sort of contest where at the end of the season, people, you know, were able to vote all season, and then, you know, at the end of the season, somebody wins something for having like the most votes for the year, to really encourage people to get walking around downtown. I did receive one email about this, and it was in support of the parklets. And I do agree that, I definitely agree with the mayor that it was a dismal failure to some degree. But I think with the new guidelines and things that we're looking at to put in place, there's an opportunity. So in some people's opinion, we failed once. Is it worth giving it a second shot? And if we fail again, never do it again? I think that's a good idea. But I also like the idea of park benches, I mean, that would be great.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Gregor?
You okay?
I agree with the mayor about more seating downtown, but that's a city budget thing that we've got to work on. So I support some many areas like that throughout the downtown in the future. But there were some times that I did see parking lots being utilized by people during times when businesses were closed. So I do think they're utilized, maybe not as much, maybe it's still an educational aspect. I was going to say, I don't think I agree with the first come, first served as far as applications. Maybe we should have a date when they need to be in, and then have some review for design as well as impact.
I think as Paul points out though, I mean, that would really require council to say yes tonight, because for us to go, I think the May council meeting is May 4th. So May 4th, and then say you're gonna install it on Memorial Day weekend, that gives you 2 weeks to design it, a couple days to review it. So unless council was ready to say go tonight so that we could launch a design contest, I don't think we'd be ready.
I'm already go to that. I was going to add too though, real quick. There is more parking now, even with Linden Street down. We've got the additional parking in the city too.
We do, and for a big piece of when the apartments were installed, Linden was closed. I mean, we closed Linden midway through the season for weekends.
Well, I said this before, it's in council. I hate us when we lose an opportunity, like we have a season coming up. We're in the tourist business now. We're wine, cheese, and food, and we're now the head of the wine trail. So I don't want to lose the opportunity. So if we have to vote on it tonight, I'd like to put it on the agenda.
We got a real tricky issue here.
Yes.
I don't, even in my craftiest of crafts, I'm not sure I can quantify this as an emergency.
Well, you're saying though that we're going to, so do we have 2 for this year if we do nothing? If we do nothing, are we going to get 2? Or is it going to be 0?
No, we're gonna do it.
Well, there's 2 ways, there's 2 more ways to look at that. So last year, we did not seek council approval. We advised council that this is what we were going to do. There's no charter requirement or local law that says, council gets to have a say. But we were challenged, if not criticized, for not bringing that, and not by council members, but for not bringing that to the floor of council for discussion. So the resolution is a courtesy to council. If council wants to just give staff the guidance to go and do it, then we can go and do it.
Well, that's where we're at, then, right? We've had a discussion, we've got our input. You're saying we're not wedded to 2, right? We didn't ever pass a resolution that said only 2.
We never passed a resolution, period.
Okay, so you've got all this feedback from us. I mean, if we do nothing.
I refuse to believe we're that slow of learners.
No,
I really do refuse to believe that.
I'm just saying though, I'm saying that he's listened to all our feedback.
Yes.
And if we just do nothing, something's going to happen. And the 2 that put in their applications are going to be able to go ahead, right?
So as a courtesy to council, there could be a resolution on the May meeting. And in between then and now, any proactive business in the downtown area that caught wind that we were thinking parklets could already have a design ready.
We could also host, or we could also sponsor a design competition that would be due. I mean, this is what we did last year. We did a design competition. We could make the design competition due the 2nd week of May, so that council comes back. You set the guidelines, say we're going to do this many, we're going to do in May. And if you vote it down, all of the effort that was expended was in design and not in construction.
You don't think we could have all the designs due before the next meeting? Rather than in the middle of
I strategically put it the week after, because I thought I heard Councilor Cameron say City Council didn't want to be in the business of design approval.
I don't want to see that.
And so I would hesitate to even bring the designs onto the floor of city council. So I might as well make them do the day after city council so that you don't even have that temptation.
But I'm not gonna comment on it.
I don't think we need the resolution.
It's about the time, that the person has to implement it. That's what I'm focused on.
Yep, I agree.
And I'm not doing this for the city council's, convenience. If you have the competition, and you get all the designs in, the sooner the better, so that they can get out there and start business.
Yes, we could do the selections on Thursday, May 5th. I mean, I'm okay with
That's
that.
fine.
The challenge with that, the only challenge with that being that if on Wednesday, May 4th, it comes back 7-2 not to do parklets, then we've got, a group of folks who've wasted some effort, but.
I don't think we need a resolution for this.
You don't?
I just think we just have to,
I agree with you.
pick a number, up to a certain amount. Or we can say 5, but if you only have 3 that you like, I'm okay with leaving it up to city staff. And like Ken said, if we don't do anything, something's gonna happen. And so, but I think we need to move the
Matt,
process.
can you hold this hand grenade for me for a minute?
Well, you could ask a few people who have some artistic,
But we gotta trust that they're gonna do it the right way. I mean, not the right way, but do it the best way they're gonna try to make it look nice and
Just like every business is unique, every parklet is gonna be unique. So, you just gotta expect that.
All right, no resolution either. Rich.
no resolution needed.
Make it happen.
I've got it.
I think you have an affirmative head now, but
Okay.
just for a matter of record, mine's a.
The mayor's nodding.
We're signing off.
It's got necessarily murky direction there.
Okay. Next item is a discussion regarding labor status of management employees. Council Valentino?
Thank you, Mayor. I will move this along as quickly as possible as I can. We've had a procedural issue, I believe, that we need to kind of address. And what I'd like to do is just put it on the table for everybody to comment on if they would like to, or not comment on if you would like to. The challenge that I think I see us running into as a council is, given the years that I've been working with the city manager and his staff, we've put pressure on them to reduce costs internally. And a lot of that has been a natural reduction in staff, an intelligent reduction in staff, without affecting city services, and by providing almost even better services at times. And the city manager has gone about that in a lot of varieties of different ways. And I've seen him be extremely effective. We've received charts and graphs when it comes to budget time to show our labor costs as opposed to previous years, to current years. And when you look around the city and you look at the services we provide on a regular basis, whether they're public safety, whether they're public works, Office of Neighborhood Initiatives, there's positive things taking place constantly. So recently, we had a challenge, and the challenge was that we needed a director of public works, and Matt went out there and formed an agreement, and it was a tentative agreement, and that agreement kind of took place as a partial, part-time type agreement, and it turned into something that worked really good for Matt and the group. And when that went from that point to a more permanent agreement, there were some challenges with labor unions and management positions. And we let Matt be creative, and I'm talking about the previous council more than this council here. We let Matt be as creative as he needed to be to create those services and reduce the cost to the taxpayers. Since then, council has changed direction somewhat, or changed direction towards Matt. And my focus, by putting this on the agenda, is to try to create some level of policy direction so that the city manager, whether it's Matt or any city manager in the future, has guidelines to go by when we tell them to be creative with how they run the city and how they staff each department and how they get things done in the city. If there's any limitations that council wants to put on the city manager, They need to do that as a general policy, not as a case-by-case situation. So specifically, this situation was having somebody in the union hold a management position and hold two of those positions, keep his union position and hold a management position, which came along with a memorandum of understanding from the union that it was totally okay and in agreement. Followed the right procedures, we did the right things, but yet we directed Matt to make a change to that and not allow that to happen. So I'm asking this council to have a discussion whether we should make it a policy that union members cannot hold the union position and a management position at the same time. I would like to keep it as open as possible and let city staff do their job as effectively as possible and deal with that later. So I'm putting it on the table for discussion.
I'd like us to do some research on what other communities do, and I'm sure they have unions, and let's see what the norm is out there, what's the best practice for that type of situation. I agree, we need some sort of policy, because if we had a policy in place, we wouldn't have had to. And, you know, the city manager would have known exactly what to do in that situation. So I agree, we do need to look into this, but I'd like to do some more research, and I'll be happy to work with you on that.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. If we do research on other communities, I think when you talk about the population, the number of people there, and you talk about the cost structure on the city, the police department, the fire department, the public works department, even the city staff, because recently what has taken place, and I think we talked about this during our retreat, the city manager also handles our economic development. And, you know, we talked about economic development tonight here, which is, I think is pretty cool. We've got some pretty cool things going on. And the economic development challenges that we run into, I'm pretty happy with how bad deals we got. He utilizes his staff very effectively, and the economic development that's taking place in the community is happening. It's been happening pretty regularly. Now, Matt is going to have to direct some of his time and resources to the Department of Public Works, which I think is going to draw him away from city manager responsibilities and department and economic development responsibilities. If we worried about stretching him thin before, we're stretching him thinner now.
I hope everybody out, I wonder if we've explained it, you know, well enough, so people out there understand what we're talking about.
I'm talking about policy right now.
No, I understand, but I think that Matt should have as much flexibility as possible. I've had some time to think about what's happened, and I felt that the memorandum covered, you know, it basically assured the person who was stepping into the management position that they'd be able to return to the union if, for whatever reason, they wanted to, or maybe they didn't work out or whatever. And I'm sort of very much focused on, you know, on getting our job done as city staff and performing for the residents and everything else. And so I kind of felt like this was something that worked out. And the person that was performing the management function was doing a great job. And, you know, personnel, things were cooking. And I felt that, again, he is our economic development officer, and I believe he should be. I don't believe we need to have a separate economic development officer pay another somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 for an economic development officer, and it is a feeling of some people that we should have a separate person. But in a 13,000 person community, I think that anybody who wants to come and do a project in the city of Geneva, they want to talk to the man, and the man is Matt. They don't want to talk to some other functionary who's going to go say, well, I'll see, and I'll whatever. They want to just get the answers, and Matt has always had the answers. So that makes a level of efficiency in terms of our economic development activity very efficient, very effective, and cost, and it's good for the taxpayers in terms of cost. And Matt says he can do the job, and so far, watching Matt do this work for the last couple of years, I think he can. So I'd like him to have some flexibility. I think he's shown some judgment, and I like the team he's put together, and I have to admit, I didn't completely fully understand what was going on at the time when Matt felt he had to make a change and go back to another approach. I feel I am concerned, just like what you said, Steve, that Matt's going to have to spend quite a bit of time this summer directly supervising the DPW, because we don't really want to open up the budget, hire somebody that's going to ask us to, that's going to increase the budget for this year that we've already passed.
Jack?
Seeing I'm being blamed for bringing this up at the beginning, my whole aspect of this is, I worked for a big company when I was a Teamster. And a lot of our Teamsters were promoted to supervision under the agreement that they had to drop out of the union. You cannot be a union man and be a company man at the same time. It's not good for a company man in a union to sit at a negotiation table, negotiating contracts for his people here and being a union man here. So, I mean, I don't see how you can be both. I'm not against the person that's involved in this. I thought he done a really good job. The only thing I'm saying, and I said it before, if you want to be a staff person, you get out of the union. If you don't want to be a staff person, you stay in the union and do the job you had. It's very simple as far as I was concerned. I don't think it's a big policy thing. I think it's the right thing to do. You can't represent your men here and represent something else here. It's very hard to do. And I was on a lot of boards when I was in the Teamsters, and we saw a lot of that. But that's the rule. If you want to be a staff person, you get out of the union. Or you can stay in the union and don't be a staff person. But I don't like to be the only one blamed for it. When I heard I was one of the ones blamed for it anyway.
I don't think you're alone, John.
Well, I know that, but I'm just, giving my opinion.
Well, it's on the street. It's on the street. That's beside the point.
Since it happened.
Going back to Steve's point, it is a policy issue. If we had the policy in place, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
That's right. And I agree with John. I lived the position. I had that alternative that I had to make back in 1999. City manager came to me and said, here's the position. If you want it, you have to get out of the union. That was the bottom line. We have several other department heads that are not in a union. It's a difficult situation for the people that have to work under that particular department head. I'm not against the department head. I'm not against the person. I'm against the procedure. Steve, I don't know the way it works in your company, but if you're a company man, I don't think you're a union man. That's the way I see it. I agree with John. I would propose, and I would ask the city manager to put a resolution to make it clear to everybody, put a resolution out for next month that basically covers that if you are a department head of the city of Geneva, you will not belong to a union. Simple as that. Then there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's cut clear.
This here, I am a current union employee, and I agree with Councilor Grieco.
Not with the city, would you clarify that?
Yeah, not with the city. With New York State Electric and Gas, I have been for 16 years. And if you are a union employee, you know this, all right? This is not uncommon knowledge, okay? So, and I'm in such a position, I'm a new counselor, I'm not an ex-city employee, I'm not, no particular affiliation. So my understanding has nothing to do with names or personal relationships or anything of that nature, even as far as being able to do the job. Has absolutely nothing to do with it. It's based on right and wrong, okay? So everything I've said is, and when you do the research, you will see that this is exactly how union company is. Has nothing to do with right and wrong, as long as policy is adhered to, as long as everything is, if there's votes on, because everything in the union, there's a vote on it, if everything is always you can always go back to trace things. So this has nothing to do with anyone but right and wrong. And I'm here to represent my constituents who all of these decisions are being made for, and that's it. I'm not here for no friendships or any relationships. It's for the constituents who these decisions and policies are made for. And that's my stance, and it will never change. It will never change. So, respectfully.
Well, are you looking for consensus to put the resolution on the agenda?
Well, you don't really need consensus for that. A single counselor can.
Right, yeah, he can ask for a resolution.
Because I think it makes sense to,
We can put something together and
Address
have further discussion on this next month.
4D,
Pardon?
4D, rules of order allows me 1 minute for final comments since I put that on the floor.
Do you still want to talk?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry.
Okay,
And it's just because, you know, I like where we're going. I'm fine putting a resolution on the floor. The union thing, I'm not pro-union, I'm not anti-union. I have nothing to do with that. I'll go with that, with your comment though. I am value for the taxpayer dollar. And it's extremely important for me to keep that forefront of my mind, that every penny we spend and every decision we make is all about the taxpayers. So if I give my staff the latitude to be as efficient as possible, everything else is off the table.
As long as it's in policy.
You got it. You got it.
Lining up.
Mayor?
I was last, wait a minute.
Oh, that's good, I'm good. You're done, no, you're done. You're done.
Are we done?
Yes, I'm
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Item D. The appointments to boards and commissions. Counselor D'Amico or Counselor Rico?
I don't have any detail on.
I would like to propose that we appoint to the Geneva Historic Districts Commission the reappointments of Victoria Lehman, Thomas Burrow, and Sharon Best. And I also would like to propose that we, for the planning board, add Michael John for a reappointment that I missed him last month, and I wanted to make sure he's included. Doris caught me on that, and the 4 people that I just proposed, I'm recommending for reappointment. I'll make that motion.
Second, Counselor Valentino. Questions?
Just a question to those 2 boards for reappointments, because we had brought this up on the table before. For reappointments, I believe there's an expectation, we did this for the Human Rights Commission, for an interview, not to make the reappointment automatic. I just wanted to ask if those interview processes are still going on, if that's the procedures that we're taking for reappointments.
I can speak for Michael John for the planning board, and he was asked to come in and sit with us through the interview process. I think Mark could be able to address historic districts. Is that you? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, well, I haven't been in touch with
Well, he was planning board.
But are you,
Yes.
is that your, are you liaison to the historic district? Okay, so I spoke to planning board, so if you want to speak to, because I don't know what happened at historic district.
Yeah, the question is, are we interviewing for reappointments?
Right. This is the one where I was out of town. I didn't miss that meeting.
Just so the public knows that we're not doing things rubber stamping them, we're not just reappointing people for the sake of reappointing them, we're going through the interview process.
I interviewed all there were 3 reappointments to the zoning board, they were all interviewed.
Excellent.
I think most of the
Yeah, that's good.
commissions are doing that.
So on the historic commission, we don't know whether they were interviewed or not? Is that, because you weren't able to,
I wasn't
you're not able to verify.
Mark didn't interview.
So, no, so.
I didn't interview them, and I'm the one who does.
Oh, you have to interview?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So they haven't, to my knowledge, have not been interviewed.
So are we just voting on one tonight? To wait?
No, no,
Oh, no, it's not. Proposal is seconded.
Ron is second.
Oh, you're recommending.
Yes.
That's been settled. Yeah, the rec department was the only one I have.
I don't have an amendment to the resolution. My resolution is to reappoint the 4 people that I brought in my recommendation.
That's my second.
Clerk call the roll.
Council D'Amico?
Aye.
Council Barron?
Aye.
Council Ellington?
Aye.
Council Rico?
Aye.
Council Hageman?
Aye.
Council Cameron?
Aye.
Council Family? Council Valentino?
Aye.
Mayor Alcott?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item is public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council, please step to the podium and give us your name.
Good evening, my name is Dave Linger. I have 4 items to talk about, and I think I only have 3 minutes, so I'll make it short. Number 1, thank you very much for the support on the Linden Street proposal. Hopefully have a better year than it was last, and it's going to be a successful event. Number 2, thank you for your support for the Business Incubator Project. Again, we're going to have a successful project, and that's going to be a wonderful addition to Geneva and the whole region. The main reason I'm up here is the parklets. I want to state my support for the parklets and my personal observations. Being a downtown resident, 91 Castle Street, going at 2 short blocks down to the lakefront, both walking and by bike. I happen to go by Lake Drum, sometimes go in Lake Drum, sometimes use the parklet as part of going into Lake Drum, but also have used the parklet myself for just random occasions. I've seen other folks that are not associated with Lake Drum, sometimes when Lake Drum is closed, are out there enjoying that parklet. So it's a useful, successful program, and I hope it continues and perhaps even expands. The last and 4th point is where I hear right now, which is at 9:35 p.m. And I realize the important issues you guys have. There's time management questions. There's a question of when public comment should appropriately be within this meeting. My personal sense is that it should be at the beginning of the meeting. I know there's reasons why it should be near the end. There's a strong thoughts of that. It was well publicized in the paper, what the position was of the mayor and other folks that decided to do it there as a trial basis. My personal feeling is that it's difficult for folks that want to get in here, say their piece, and get back out. I found it very interesting to hear what was going on tonight, and you had a lot of interesting business, some of which I wasn't aware of. I learned some things tonight, and other folks did as well. However, there's other people that have, business obligations, work obligations, parental obligations, and coming in here at 7 or 7:30 and not knowing if you're going to be asked to speak your 3 minutes apiece at 8, 9, or 9:35 is a little bit of a limitation to some folks. I was willing to stay, but I think some people in the audience did notice that the proprietors of Lake Drum, Victor and his significant other Jenna, were here. I think they're interested, they're passionate folks, and I know they're in support of the parklets, but they're not here now to give their comments. And one of the reasons was because too much time had expired, they weren't able to stay any longer. They had to get back to their business. So I respectfully ask you to reconsider the appropriate time, moving it to the front. I've heard from my significant other, who goes to many of these meetings throughout the upstate region, that one way to limit it would be to have pre-sign-up, to have, in addition to having the 3 or 4 minute limitation, you have people sign up either online or in person at City Hall some period of time ahead. Then you have a sense what you're up against. You're up against 2 or 3 folks wanting to talk, or perhaps more, and that'd be a potential alternative time management skill. Thank you.
I'm also going to talk about public comments. My name is Charles King. I live on Washington Street in Copeland and Nursery. Thank you for taking public comments. This is my 5th appearance before council in the past year, and I think it would be nice if you gave me a punch card so I could get some free coffee. I saw the article in the paper about public comments coming at the end of council meetings, and I wanted to share a couple of ideas. When he was on council, I always liked Councilor DeCostanza's litmus test. Is this good for Geneva? Is moving public comments to the end good for Geneva? We start by pledging allegiance to the flag. That reminds us about liberty and justice for all. All of the voices in this room are important. Some of us might be more shy or less organized than others, but in a democracy we all have the right to free speech, to free assembly, and to civil disobedience within the boundaries of the law. If staff members are required to attend these meetings, I'm not sure it's appropriate to say that the unimportant part, where they can go home, is the part where the public speaks. You, government, benefit from an engaged public. The public benefit from an engaged government, both elected and employed officials. Each of you gets an unlimited amount of time to debate and speak about whatever subjects you wish, and that's fair. You're representatives, you're collecting the ideas of everyone in your neighborhoods. With public comments at the end, you can create an effective filibuster of the public by collectively running an inefficient meeting. If you see a team of people who want to talk about something controversial and you don't like that group's agenda, you can squelch them by running a long, long meeting. It is an okay goal to want meetings to be less onerous, and organizing the public comments might be helpful. It might be good to ask for a show of hands at the beginning of meetings, or have people sign up to speak and list the subject that they want to speak about with the meeting's agenda posted right there. And they'll say if they're a member of a group, then Mayor Alcock could call individuals from the public up at the beginning of specific agenda items, put Linden with Linden, put Parklets with Parklets. Or you could look at the list and see if there's a group and invite one representative of that team to speak and do an introduction, and then the rest of the team could go last. That would require teams to be a little bit more organized, which might make that more efficient. Or maybe don't put public comments off past 8:30. If you need a two-part meeting before and after public comments, maybe that might work. Easy votes, committee reports, city business first, public comments in the middle, tabled stuff and hot topics last. If it's something controversial that you're about to vote on, wouldn't you want to hear public comments first? Suppose you're about to redo sidewalks on Copeland Avenue, where I walk to Wegmans 4 or 5 times a week. You're the city authorities, but I'm an expert on that sidewalk. You do a final vote on the plan, and only after your final vote can I stand up and point out that one of the street signs in your proposal was both unsafe and blatantly against city code. Now you have to start over again, or appeal, because you waited until after you voted to get the information you needed for a fully informed vote. Public comments can be an important part of your due diligence, is what I'm suggesting, especially if it's an imminent topic that has been previously tabled and announced in the paper. You literally get the last word on city decisions. So why would you get the last word and then invite more words? To sum up, public comments later is okay. Sign-ups seem okay to me. More organized is okay. Agenda item by agenda item would be okay. But waiting until the very end might not be the best for Geneva. Thank you.
This is like I got a couple of questions, actually. I know the city is losing money. I know how the city could make money. Number one is all these houses you're going to tear down. Why can't somebody fix them up and come back onto Sex Road and spend thousands and thousands of dollars tearing them down? There's people come to me, they want to buy these big houses, a couple of doors from us. They've been there for 7 years. The guy bought it. Now he's going to make that look nice. And he's going to, then the tax year will be paying, people will be paying more taxes. A lot of these houses tore down. I think some of the people got food. They bought lots, they thought they was going to build houses on. Then they come out the lot wasn't big enough to build houses on. Is that right?
In some situations,
Yeah, they
people buy
got
lots.
food in a way. So, there's people come to me and said they would like to buy some of these houses that you're going to tear down, but you guys won't even talk to them about it.
The houses that we're not going to tear down all the houses we own. We're only going to tear down the ones that are beyond saving that you couldn't put.
Okay, why can't people buy these other houses? We just don't charge anything, just let them pay the lower fee and then you can have them. Instead of spending a lot of money tearing them down.
Yeah, we'll look at each one case by case.
Why don't you put an ad in the paper so people can see which houses it is? Because before anyone could live in it or sell it, it would have to be inspected, won't it? So in the contract, you ought to have it fixed, it has to look halfway decent where they could do anything, I mean, live in it or anything.
Something we're working on, for sure.
Well, seems like. And then now the question is, how did you make out with the TVs?
We got,
How many you want?
With the TVs. Remember I told you, asked you long about the people putting all these TVs on the road, they can't get rid of them, they throw them in the trash, they get fined for $250.
Salvation Army on Route 5 and 20.
They won't take them.
I have an answer for you.
Some of them don't work. Why would
Salvation Army takes the
If it's
recycling.
Mr. Smith, Salvation Army will take it free of
Up on
charge.
5 and 20 they will?
They are now certified to take electronic waste. I was going to announce it later tonight.
Well, you see a lot of them on the street there, right?
Right.
How come the city don't go along and pick them up? They pick up the leaves and the trash, and they drive around and around and around.
It's a good suggestion.
Two guys in there, they
We'll have
instead of
to-
riding around, they just stop and pick them up when they.
Well, in the meantime, help us out.
Thank you.
There's a guy, he knows, next door to us, that house, he probably pull up the 20, when he gets down to 80, 90,000, so he's gonna pay more taxes on me. So will you do something about it?
We're gonna work on it, sir.
We're working on it.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
It's your turn.
I won't be as hard on you guys as the others. Get a couple of questions answered on this clarification on the student livability task force initiative tonight that you guys implemented. Okay, it seems kind of a little bit vague to me. I mean, as far as the contents of it. Okay, you mentioned, I think you did, Ms. Marina, about student leaders going out into the communities and sort of, I mean, this is what my understanding is going to be, that they're going to go out and they're going to desensitize the other students that are living in off-campus housing to be more respectful to the residents of the city of Geneva. I mean, is that sort of what this initiative is about?
No.
Okay, well, can you explain it?
Please, could you present your question to council? It's really not a give and take here. This is to present your questions to us. And we'll, obviously, this task force is just beginning to take shape.
Okay.
So more feedback will be coming to the public on it. So I think it might be a little premature to, to say, hey, what are you going to do with this instance or that instance?
No, I'm not asking that. I'm asking what's the meat and potatoes of it? I mean, what is the whole concept of it? Is it, are you going out there, does it have anything to do with building code enforcement on the buildings?
I think the task force is going to figure out what the meat and potatoes will be.
Okay. So
Yeah,
They're settling
it's just started.
to figure out a plan of attack.
Okay. All right. Another question is, does it have anything to do with overcrowding in the student housing on campus? Is that also implemented in it?
Yeah, I'm sure that you're addressing that as
Those
well.
dialogues, those things will be addressed.
Okay, so there's a number of different issues.
Your Honor, just a suggestion. If Mr. Sharaba would contact Councilor Marino and have that discussion, because if you got good ideas, they'd probably love to hear them.
Well, here's the thing.
Maybe watch it on a committee.
Give us a few.
I live on Hamilton Street, across from the college, so I'm at ground zero of the student activity, okay? So I know what's going on down there, and I know how to resolve some of the issues. I've called the city before on some of the building next door to me, there's 10 students living there, okay? Number one, that's an occupancy issue. I think that's too many. I believe, I know in Rochester, you can only have 4 families living in a dwelling. A student will be considered a family. Now, I don't know the particulars, but I've talked to the city before about it, okay? And the only answer I can get is, well, there's currently a lawsuit, so there's nothing we can do right now, which to me is unacceptable, for an answer, okay? And that came from your zoning department. So, this is where the confusion comes in for somebody like me who lives next door to the house, okay? And I see the issues every day. And, it doesn't seem to be getting resolved. And I'm
That's why-
hoping this task force does do something.
Yeah, that's why it's been formed.
That's why we started
The
it.
way we were doing it wasn't working.
Right, well, yeah, because I've been to a couple of meetings on the Hooper Dam, and nothing comes out of it. Nothing ever comes out of it, or arguments and people leaving the meeting. So I just hope this isn't gonna follow suit with that.
That's right.
Okay?
Try to put a little more teeth in.
My name is Jay Coleman. The public comment should be moved back to its original placement, council on the agenda, so that seniors and disabled can have access to board of counselors, along with individuals who have to travel to Rochester and Syracuse for jobs to support their families. I'm in here right now and I see that several city managers are here and I don't see them leaving. There's an explanation in the paper that it was moved so that city managers and other people that are city employees can leave early or whatever their concerns are. I think the most paramount thing is that your constituents, through the vehicle of transparency, which you all ran on, should be honored and that the public comment be placed back to where it should be. And also, those of you that have 6 votes, we'd like to see you bring debate forward to discuss this concern. And by the way, public comment was moved 20 to 25 years ago. I did some research and talked to some people on the agenda, and it was found to be non-productive as it is now. And I had a young man that was sitting here and he said, geez, I can't sit any longer on these wooden seats. Imagine if somebody comes in at 60 or 70 years old. So if you're gonna make people wait till 9:47 at night to speak, then you should change the seating accommodations to more comfortable seats. On Sunday afternoon, around 1 o'clock, I saw a sandwich board blocking the west side of Linden Street sidewalk. So if somebody was trying to walk on the sidewalk, they would basically have to get off the sidewalk and then get into the street and walk in the street instead of walking on the sidewalk. And I thought that we did have right of way on the sidewalk for pedestrians, not to have to get on into the street to walk. And you couldn't get past the sandwich board. It was as soon as you turn on the Linden right there, we've got that sign that says no parking or whatever's going on there. Just had a new business open up on the corner. And you couldn't get in, you couldn't get down Linden Street, it was blocked. And there's people that cut up through Linden Street going over to the high-rise apartments that has personal mobility devices, so forth and so on. So it's paramount, whether that street's closed or whatever the deal is, that sidewalk be remain open and clear so people can pass. Number 3, you know, I was shocked by the closing comments by your Ward 2 appointments counselor as he described 2 individuals that was appointed to boards and commissions. And I really have no intention of repeating his words and or his description of those 2 individuals. But if you plan on having this fellow as your appointment czar and diversity man, I submit that we really need to send him out for some sensitivity and diversity training. And I'm sorry, council, if I took up your valuable time, but I did enjoy being here since 7 o'clock with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Deborah Eddings. I have been a resident on Road Street for 17 years, and the parking is atrocious. Lots of times we have cops sitting down there picking up on this old doctor's office on North Street, why he can't see these cars parallel. I don't know how an ambulance or fire truck or anything else, and now there's a bunch of kids on the street playing ball, where there's a playground in the area. And another main concern of mine is the house next door to me that's falling down. Literally falling through it and everything. 43, I think it's 43 John Street that needs to be torn down.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sabra Ahmad.
Good hearing.
I've been working with the Geneva City School District since probably 2010. I'm a Williamson graduate. I just want to say that our students, especially our high school seniors that I work with, they need your help. They need to see diversity in their community. They do see it, but they don't see it in the way that maybe you guys see it. And maybe if you come to the school and show them what you do, maybe mentor them, I would really appreciate it, and the families would too.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jim Meany. Normally I start out by thanking you for the opportunity to speak, but I'm not sure if I should be thanking you because I'm not sure if I'm welcome to be speaking here right now. Considering the change in the public comment period, by moving the public comment later in the meeting, the implication is that the opinions and the voice of the citizens is less important than the convenience and the comfort of city employees. It's not part of my job description to attend city council meetings. So I attend when I want to, when I feel like I have something to say, or if I want to hear something that's going on. The reasoning, also I understand Mr. King and Mr. Linger had offered some solutions to possibly helping out with whatever kind of issue is going on with public comment going on and on, as you were quoted in the Green Lake Times, Councilor Eddington. I'm not sure if there really is that much of a problem. It wasn't something that I don't think came up in council discussions ever. It just suddenly happened in January. And finally, there were some quotes from a couple of members of the council that they felt that city business took priority. Everyone who came up here and spoke tonight, it's city business. That's part of everyone's job up here, is to hear people speak. It's hard for some people to get up and talk. Some people don't want to, but when they actually take the time out of their day to come down here, they shouldn't be pushed to the end of the meeting and told, you're gonna wait because you're not quite important enough. You're not quite as important as the other city business we have to take care of. So I don't think this is something that should be done as a pilot. I don't think any more time should be wasted. I think public comment should be moved back to the beginning of the meeting. And then if more discussion about ways to shorten up the meetings needs to happen, then it needs to happen. But I hope that you've heard the significant negative feedback from the public at this point via your counselors and via the people that were here tonight, and to move the public comment back to the beginning again. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Ethan Powell. I live on Maple Place, and I came before you a few months ago to request the work on the parking issues and the street issues that were being had there. And I'd like to thank you for your diligence and attention to that matter. I'd also like to request a few more bits of diligence. First off, if you're going to park a computer here with an agenda on it, this agenda has not moved all evening. And there's been significant items on the list. I appreciate that there are paper agendas available. I follow on my cell phone, but I would just request that if you're going to post it, that it move. And if you need somebody to move it, then certainly I'm certain that we can find a volunteer. The other thing that I'd like you to consider as you go forward is I appreciate that many of the council members have been on council for a long time, and as a former collegiate registrar, I really appreciate the idea of institutional knowledge and institution stability. But I'd ask that as you travel forward as a group for the next 4 years, that you truly consider term limitations. I believe that there are solutions and possibilities that we could grasp to include more of the folks in the community in this council chamber. And if we're going to move public comment around or dismiss it, or manage it in some fashion, then perhaps the best way to deal with that is just to bring other new voices on the council in the first place. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? I'll declare public comment closed and move on to the mayor and council reports. Councilor Eddington, you want to start tonight?
Sure. The zoning board met on March 30th. There was one item on the agenda.